Martin Luther King, who just got a Nobel Peace Prize, an Uncle Tom. Is this correct, first?
Well, I'd rather say that in the States, there's a law that has recently been passed, or a decision handed down by the court, wherein if you call someone an Uncle Tom, they can sue you for libel.
Well,
so I never refer to them as Uncle Toms. I would say that Uncle Martin is my friend.
Uncle Martin is your friend, yet you would disagree with his approach to what he wants to accomplish.
Definitely. If his approach would bring about what the black man in America needs to completely eliminate the problem that we have, I would say well and good. But I very much doubt that anyone who adopts the approach that Martin Luther King has been teaching to our people in that country can point to any meaningful gains that has actually served to solve the problem.
Black Muslims have...
What's going on, everybody? Thanks for being here. I want to talk about a few things today. The first one is Trump turns on Vivek. And I'm not saying like, oh, Trump's so bad he turned on Vivek. I'm just saying his rhetoric was pro-Vivek. He was really feeling him. And then recently, I think he came to the conclusion that Vivek was trying to steal MAGA votes away from Donald Trump and threaten his chance of winning. So that's going to be the first story we're going to talk about today. I have a few interesting concepts. The Iowa primary is today. So Iowa, you know, they will determine if Trump wins by 30 points, if Nikki Haley or Vivek or DeSantis kind of upsets him. We'll talk about all that. Another concept I wanted to talk about today before we get into Malcolm X and what he said about Martin Luther King, since it's MLK Day, is, you know, Trump being an agent of chaos. I think that's what a lot of people liked at the beginning, was like, he's this agent of chaos. He's causing chaos for the swamp and the deep state and the Democrats and the Republicans. But I kind of wanted to float the idea, just because I've been thinking it in my own head, now that I see that he's hired a lot of those people and he works with them. What if he was an agent of chaos, but for the conservative and libertarian liberty movement, et cetera, so nobody could really organize or ever get a leader that could kind of drive them to the promised land? And I got a lot of stuff, folks. I don't want to get too much into it because I want to save it for the show. But the Dreamer podcast starts now. Thank you for joining. And whether you vote for Vivek or Donald Trump or DeSantis, all I ask is that you consider what I'm saying and have an open mind and just try to be a reasonable person, and do not let politics turn you into a psychopath, because, you know, after this competition, things will move on and it'll all be okay. Thanks for being here. Dreamer podcast starts now.
It's the Dream Rare Podcast. Welcome to the show. The way to get the news at the desk or on the road. Let's go. God is great and success in our control. The world is crazy, but we get better from obstacles. Yeah.
What's going on, folks? Give me a thumbs up. I think that everything is good on Facebook or YouTube, just making sure before I start. And before I start, I want to say two things. One, I was away for a little bit. I was in Las Vegas and Utah. Thank you to everybody I met in Cedar City or Vegas. It was great. I have a song, or I'm about to have two songs with the band Trapped, and they're on tour quite often. And sometimes I just pop up at the shows when I want to, or we think it's a good idea. So I flew into Vegas. I rented a car. I went to Cedar City, Utah, my first time in Utah. I loved it, especially, you know, I heard Salt Lake was cool too, but some people were like, don't go there. It's the city, you know, it's like all cities. So, you know, I kind of went out in the cut where a lot of people aren't. And I think that's where I enjoyed the most. So I saw Zion National Park, did a show. I'm just like exhausted, to be honest. I drove a lot, flew a lot, and did two rock shows, and it went awesome. So that's where I was. I'm back to this work now. With that being said, before I really get into the weeds of it, I want to talk about a concept that I just posted about, but I truly believe that this is more important than whether you like Vivek or Trump or DeSantis, or God forbid, you're like obsessed with Biden, seek help. Just kidding. But, you know, it's self-awareness. I know this is not the sexiest topic. It's not going to get the most views or clicks, but I truly believe that the root of everything is like, are you honest with yourself? Or do you lie to yourself? If you're honest with yourself and someone tells you the truth about you, it might bother you a little bit that they said it or something, but you know yourself more than anyone else knows you. You've been with yourself the longest. You've been, you know, you're there when the lights are off and nobody's around. So nobody can really tell you about yourself if you're honest with yourself. And if you're not honest with yourself, you seek lies outwardly, right? Why does somebody stay with like an abusive spouse that's horrific? Usually it's internal problems, and, you know, it's like internal weaknesses that are causing them to stay in a bad situation. It's the same as this. So I truly believe, whether it's DeSantis, Trump, or Vivek, I know people are going to get mad and spiral at what I say because they live vicariously through politicians and pharmaceutical CEOs and people who pass speech laws for foreign countries and infringe on the Second Amendment. And they think that obsessing over these people like a football team is going to make them, happy and successful and save the country. I don't believe it is. I think it all roots from self-awareness. And I think if you're honest with yourself, you're harder to get tricked and lied to. And if you're not honest with yourself, you're easy to trick and fool. So the greatest skill that you could have, I think discernment's one of them. But, I do believe that you can improve on it. Like, you got to be honest with yourself. So that's just a trend that I noticed, because if you're not that, then you're easy to trick. If you lie to yourself, anyone could lie to you. If you don't lie to yourself, it's hard to trick you. And most people are easy to lie to. And there's an old, I think it was Mark Twain quote. It's like, it's easier to fool a fool than to tell them the truth, or something along those lines. And I do really see that. And this really plays into Vivek's strategy and DeSantis's not strategy, because Vivek went with the strategy. And I'm not knocking the guy. I'm not hating everything he does. This is just an analysis. I know people are going to cry. They didn't even know who the guy was a year ago. Now they're the biggest fans. They pissed their pants. They got Vivek underwear that they pee when someone says something. It's like, I know how heavily people care about this stuff, so it's hard to say. But, Vivek went with the strategy of just telling people what they want to hear. He wrote a book in late 2022, which is not that long ago. And it was all about how there's a whole chapter how Trump was a sore loser like Stacey Abrams, and he's lying about election fraud, and it didn't happen, and there's really not the proof that he's claiming, and that Mike Pence did a respectable job. I read the entire chapter. I know what it said. It's not just satire like Vivek tries to cover it up because he wants to fool you. And I'm not mad at the guy. In some ways, he might do better than Trump. I don't know. I'm just talking about this concept. Vivek knows that there's no way to out-Trump Trump. There's no way to out-MAGA Trump. And the only way to even try to do that is to kiss his ass and lie to him and lie to his supporters in order to get their respect. Because if you come out, and I'm not saying DeSantis is perfect by any means, but if you come out and start pointing out the flaws in Donald Trump and saying, listen, Trump signed the CARES Act. That was socialist. Trump botched COVID. Trump is too close to Fauci. Trump did this. Trump hired the swamp. Trump hired Bill Barr. If you do that, MAGA ends up hating you. It's just the truth. Like, some people will like it, but you're going to lose money. You're going to lose a lot of following. You're not going to get booked at Turning Point. You're not going to get to go to Mar-a-Lago. The only route to do that is to kiss Trump's ass. So I personally believe that was Vivek's strategy. I know that he's not the same person he was when he wrote his book in 2022, because I read the entire chapter, and what he says about Trump now is like almost the exact opposite of what he wrote in his book a year. I'm not talking about 5 years ago or 10 years ago or when he was 15 years old or in 2016. I'm talking about a book that came out in 2022. And he doesn't even say what he said in his own book. I don't care. I'm just coming to the conclusion. It's like, I don't think he had this huge revolution of the mind in 5 months when he went on trail. I think he just knows you can't say that to MAGA, because these grown people act like babies and they'll end up hating you for telling them the truth. So just like Mark Twain said, it's easier to just lie to them, to fool them. So that was kind of Vivek's path. And it was always going to come to this point, I think, if he wasn't just a sheepdog from the beginning to just lure people in and whatever. I don't really know what his original goal or purpose was. But now I read that Trump is like, I guess Vivek has said some stuff, and people were wearing shirts that said like, save Trump, vote Vivek. He's running for president. I don't know. He's trying to get votes, and he's trying to tell people that he'll be best for Trump. Or, to me, honestly, like, all this drama, I don't really care that much, because whether Trump, DeSantis, Vivek wins, I'm going to talk about it in a second. But, I do believe that this is that kind of like play. He got super, super popular, basically just pretending to be MAGA or being MAGA. I believe that he's very strategic, and he's doing it because he knew that would be the route. You can't just come out of nowhere and start challenging Trump and get popular. Even DeSantis went from really popular to not popular because he challenged Trump. Like, it's not easy to do. I don't even know if it's possible. Like, how do you beat Trump? You might not be able to. In politics, you might, like right now, maybe in 5 years or something. So even a lot of people with DeSantis, they were like, he should have just waited. I'm like, well, listen to what he's saying. Like, I'm not a huge DeSantis like fanboy or anything, but if he says 3 minutes of truth and Trump says, screw you for challenging me, and Florida was fine under a Democrat, and it's just because of the warm weather, like, objectively, DeSantis is being more honest about that topic, but people don't care. So that's why Vivek, I think, just was like, here, just tell MAGA everything they want to hear. And Trump was kind of like eating it up. And now, like, he's like, wait, are you trying to outdo me? It's like, yeah, of course he is. Like, what'd you think he was doing? But before I get into the primary, once again, I hate to do this because I know people want me to get into like this Kardashian-esque drama, but I truly believe that this is the most important topic. So even though it's not popular, I'm just going to start with it. And then I'll get into like the specifics of today's primary and stuff. The Overton window, in my view, which is like culture, society, perspective, perception, this is why the elites and the media and whoever you want to blame, this is why they dominate American politics. And although America is a great country, and I do think that it's going to be okay, it is kind of falling apart. I mean, a lot of stuff in this country, a lot of cities, like something's going wrong. Everyone knows it. Most Democrats, most Republicans would say we're going in the wrong direction. So that's obvious. Why? They control the perception of reality. They control the Overton window, which basically means like the arena of acceptable thought and discussion. So as long as they can control that, it doesn't matter who wins the election. You know, Epstein's brother came out and told the press that Epstein told him in 2016 that it didn't matter who won because if everybody knew what he had on the Clintons and the Trumps, that the election would be canceled. Is that true? I have no idea. I'm not like a big media but if you look at how these people govern, it seems like they're compromised, unless you just believe they mistakenly hired the swamp and hired the guy, Alex Acosta, who gave Epstein a sweetheart deal. Like, to me, that seems very plausible, but, people don't realize that. So they're fighting over this stuff, and they don't realize not only do, a lot of the elites control both sides of politics, but they also control the arena of what's acceptable to think and say. So even if you win, you still lose because you don't think for yourself and you don't push the narrative in the envelope. You just kind of like live in the arena that they set for you. So with that being said, after 2020, my concern, and I've said this in 2020, 2021, 2022, now 2024, time flies. I can't believe it's been 4 years since 2020, but I've been trying to keep the Overton window towards sanity. I said, listen, if you vote for Trump, vote for Trump. If you vote for DeSantis, vote for DeSantis. I've been saying I have my opinions and I have my preferences at times, but in general, I'm like, let's not lose reality. Like, once you lose reality, it doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter who wins the primary. Like, you can't let them frame what you want if it doesn't make any sense. So after 2020, I watched the Overton window of the Republican Party just go towards Looney Tunes. I share a lot of the same values. It's like, yes, I want the elections to be fair, and I believe that everyone should have to show an ID. And, I think voting in person makes more sense than mass mail-in ballots to people that didn't even ask for them. I think it's insane. I think it's as insane as everyone else thinks it. But there's so much going on in 2020, 2019, 2021. Like, I've said this a bunch of times. I hate to be repetitive, but it's important just for historical context. Trump and DeSantis passed speech laws in 2019 that go against the First Amendment. Trump infringed on the Second Amendment with his bump stock ban. And people tell me in the comment section, someone said, Anomaly, don't even worry about that with DeSantis. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. It's going to be struck down in the courts. His little anti-Semitism laws that I believe infringe on the First Amendment. And Trump's bump stock ban is probably going to get shut down in the Supreme Court because it's unconstitutional. But here's what I'm trying to say. Why are Republican leaders passing bills and executive orders that are unconstitutional? This is supposed to be the party of liberty. Why are they passing things that go against the First and Second Amendment that take 5 years to get shut down in the Supreme Court? Like, it doesn't that bother anybody? And then when I say stuff like that, they're like, oh, you're just so negative. It's like, is there anything more important in America than the First Amendment and the Second Amendment? I'm not saying like your family's not more important. Of course, you should love your family and the flag, but like, as somebody that understands like the, principles of liberty and how this country was founded and what makes it somewhat better than other countries, I can't think of two more important things than the freedom of speech and the Second Amendment. Like, and those can't even be held by our own leaders. But this is the Overton window. I say it and I'm unpopular. No one else even notices because they're living in a reality that's created by the media. It's like, oh, Trump got arrested, blah. And then they spend 5 years running in circles around a narrative, not even realizing that the people they're following are just like actors. So then it's like 2020 happened and everybody now doesn't want to talk about it. But the only reason they don't want to talk about it is because Donald Trump is running for president and he sucked at it and he still lies about it. And he has the worst rhetoric in the entire Republican Party about it. He's literally crappier than 95% of the party on this topic. And he just brags about his little vaccine scams that he did for his pharmaceutical buddies. He's a psychopath and he's a liar and he's a demon. And he constantly just lies about this stuff and no one seems to care. Why? Because they want him to win. So now it doesn't matter. If Hillary Clinton were president and she did all this stuff, you better bet your bottom dollar that Republicans would want to talk about it the entire time. If Biden was in from 2020 to 2021 and he was responsible for the CARES Act and Operation Warp Speed and all that stuff, everybody would want to talk about it. But because they want a guy that pretty much did it, they don't want to talk about it. Now it's like, oh, don't talk about that. Why? You talk about the economy. That's how the economy got so shitty. You talk about freedom. We lost more free. Like every topic that you think matters, even with illegal immigration, they use like a COVID runaround where you couldn't even travel out of the country, but they're letting illegals in with no COVID tests. And I don't think you should test illegals for COVID, but you also shouldn't shove a rod up a freaking, or whatever they are, the PCR test of some kid's nose, to enter a school. Like that's insane. But anyway, it's like, okay, so from 2020, 2021 to now, we've had 3 years to try to keep the Overton window towards sane, right? Like this is what we want. This makes sense. Like this is reasonable. And in my view, we haven't done that. It's been a constant just loop, a circular like dummy loop, just running around Donald Trump, tripping over his feet. He says this, he says this. One day he likes Nikki Haley, who I never ever liked. Then he calls her a bird brain. He loves Vivek for 6 months and compliments him 50 times. Then he gets mad a day before the election. It's like the dude is aimless. It's like I've been consistent about Vivek the entire time. If you go to Tim Pool's Twitter now, he's now floating ideas that I floated a year and a half ago about Vivek now. Because that's what Republican gatekeepers do. They just freak out and scream civil war and panic and crap their pants and scream at the top of their lungs. He was like cursing at Luke the other day because Luke was talking about COVID and he's like, I'm sick of it. I'm sick. It's like, of course you're sick of it. You're like a little gremlin. You look like a Diglett with a beanie on, the Pokemon. It's like, of course you're sick of it because you're a liar. And you talk to guys like condescendingly. He's such a prick of a person. But in general, it's like, they just cover up for Donald Trump for a year and a half. They say nothing of value. And then once it's too late, then all the Republican gatekeepers come out. And now they're having conversations that smart people were having like 2 years ago. It's like the whole system is like just messed up. But the point that I'm trying to make is like, we could have kept this, like, this is what we want. We're the base, do this. But instead it's like this, oh, DeSantis has shoes and this person. And, how dare you question a pharmaceutical CEO that popped out of nowhere that doesn't even believe what he wrote in his book 6 months ago. And like, that's the movement. So in my view, and I'm not even being negative about this, I'll get into that later. I don't care who wins. I really don't. Like whether Trump wins or Vivek wins or DeSantis wins. I don't care because people in this movement apparently aren't mature or honorable enough to just make sense. So they're basically just like, vessels in the wind floating, blowing, and getting knocked all around by these people. So it's like, I believe that we failed the Overton window test from 2020 to 2023 because everybody wanted to kiss Trump's ass, because every influencer either wanted to cash out on the little Mar-a-Lago crowd, or they were just afraid of the social backlash that absolutely would have came if you ever went against Trump in any way or gave him a fair interview. And they've been playing Weekend at Bernie's cover up with this guy. He ran a, Hillary Clinton-esque campaign where he says, it's my time, get out of the way. Little liars like Charlie Kirk are like, could drop out, DeSantis. It's like, bro, shut up. Trump's going to beat DeSantis anyway. DeSantis doesn't need to drop out. Let him run if he wants to run, but also listen to what he's saying. If he says something that's true, that's our time to use that as an opportunity to play these people against each other to make them both better. If DeSantis does this, this, and this better, and Trump does this, this, and this better, what we're supposed to do is be honest and be like, that's the truth, and that's the truth. If you don't do this, then we don't want you. But instead, you had people like Charlie Kirk running around with his giant forehead, screaming, drop out of the race, never accurately covering the dynamic that DeSantis was running against all Trump's failed policies, the fact that he didn't do that much, and the fact that he sucked during COVID, and they just let Trump gaslight, lie, and run away from that stuff. So it's like, that's a fail. I'm not asking you to vote for DeSantis. I'm not asking you to like DeSantis or trust DeSantis, but instead of people coming together to really push the Republican Party to be better, the last 3 years showed how fake and pathetic this movement really is, where it's like, well, he works with George Bush donors. Okay. Did Trump hire 100 George Bush people? Yes. Does that matter? No. Why? Because I like him. Then nothing you say matters. It's like everything was based on the idol worship of a character and the idea that he's the guy, instead of looking at the policy and driving all of these people towards reality. So now we're stuck with an election where you have, I would say, Donald Trump, who God knows what he's going to do. I don't even think he's going to beat Biden. Possibly. Biden's old and shitty, but like, I don't know. Trump is like super annoying. People don't like him. Whatever. You have DeSantis, who did a really good job in Florida, but also, just like every politician in America, they pass anti-Semitism speech and protest laws to infringe on the First Amendment for a foreign country. So I don't even care about DeSantis anymore. If you can't even uphold the First Amendment and you're just as big of a shill as everyone else in politics, then who cares? Like, I'm not running around to support somebody who can't even support the most important amendment in America. And then you have Vivek, a pharmaceutical CEO who used to go on Mad Money with Jim Cramer to hawk pharmaceutical drugs that he bought from GlaxoSmithKline that launched the largest IPO in modern biotech history that crashed to the ground. Just go find that interview to see this guy. Look at his eye contact and the way he moves his hands and the way he talks like Obama. And, you know, who is Vivek? He's whoever you want him to be. At that time, he's a pharmaceutical CEO. If you watch that interview, Jim Cramer said he used to be a hedge fund manager. Imagine how dumb you have to be as a political movement after 2020, after you just got scammed by the banks and scammed by Big Pharma and scammed by both parties and scammed by Biden and scammed by Trump, to be like, you know what we need? A hedge fund manager who once took a Soros scholarship, who came absolutely out of nowhere, who then moved to the pharmaceutical industry and launched the record-breaking IPO that crashed into the ground. It's like, and then you have all these loser guys that are like, you don't understand, it's not illegal. I didn't say it was illegal. I'm not saying he committed a crime. I'm just saying I don't want him as the Republican nominee. Did Albert Bourla commit a crime? No, but that doesn't mean I like him. Did Bill Gates commit a crime when he launched Microsoft? It's like, I'm not saying these people have never done anything wrong, but like, what don't you understand? It's like, just because he didn't commit a crime doesn't mean I want him to lead my movement after 2020. Why would I want a hedge fund manager turned pharmaceutical CEO to lead the opposition movement in America? Because he says what people want him to say. And I want to show people this clip real quick. It's been going viral. I think I've showed a similar clip because they've been around for a while. And honestly, I'm in this primary. I hope Vivek does well. I hope he gets a job in the Republican Party, and I hope he proves that he really is who he says he is, and I hope he has a good voting record. I'm not poo-pooing the guy. I honestly think he should serve in Congress, and it's pretty hard to be worse than most of the Republicans in Congress. I'm not trying to chase this guy to the political movement. I don't have the power to do that. I don't want to do that. I wish him well, but let's see what he does. I'm not convinced, because this is like how he talks. I'm a very like I don't know the word, but I could listen to somebody for 10 minutes and be like, okay, that guy's like really authentic. And from day one, when I hear him talk, the way the cadences and the stops and the, like, that's not how people talk. He's like a trained, he was the valedictorian of his high school. That's great. He's ambitious. I'm glad he's smart, but like, he's been a politician since he was like in high school. He talks like that. It's not how people talk. It's like a trained speaking, In this video, it's like, you can't even come up with your own phrases. You got to steal them from Obama. Who cares?
This has never been a Democratic or Republican idea.
These are not Democrat ideas or Republican ideas.
This is an American idea.
These are fundamentally American ideals.
Imagine they were driving a car and they drove it into the ditch.
If somebody has repeatedly crashed your car,
you can't have the keys back.
Do you want to turn over the keys to the same people who crashed it?
He said Russia in the 1980s are now calling to ask for their foreign policy back.
I have a newsflash. The USSR does not exist anymore.
The Cold War's been over for 20 years.
It fell back in 1990.
A skinny guy with a funny name.
Who the heck is this skinny guy with a funny last name?
But they sense deep in their bones.
I believe deep in my bones.
E pluribus unum. Out of many, one. We are one people.
I have a dream that we can be one people again. I'm not going to read speeches written by others. What you're going to get from me is what's coming from the heart, my bone deep.
And for those who are slow, for the pea brains that are going to get upset that I played that, don't do this like weird straw man where you're like, it's not illegal. I'm not saying the guy's a criminal. I'm sure he's a nice guy. I'd love to like hang out and drink a White Claw with him or something. But it's like, just because you're not a criminal doesn't mean I want a hedge fund manager turned pharmaceutical CEO to run the party. Like, these people know how to tell you what you want to hear. And I've explained this a few times, but it's like, oh, are you just making this up? Is there proof that he's really good at selling something that's not real or hyping something up higher than it really can perform? Yeah, he only was the CEO of a pharmaceutical company that literally broke records for the highest IPO in stock you know, history. I don't know, like I want to get the right word because I want to word this carefully, but like it premiered at the highest price in ever in biotech history in the stock market. He's going around the media. He's like the pharmaceutical darling. Look at this young CEO with this Alzheimer drugs. Wow. And then he goes on Jim Cramer, Mad Money. And Jim's like, are you sure it's going to work? And he's like, wow, like he's a politician. He's a hedge fund manager turned pharmaceutical CEO. He cashed out on the pharmaceutical industry. And for those who don't know, I'm not saying he committed a crime. What I'm saying is the pharmaceutical industry is the scammiest industry in America. Everybody knows it, including people who work in the pharmaceutical industry. It's a scammy industry. There's a lot of people making money by lying. There's a lot of people making money by hawking drugs that aren't as good as they say they are. There's a lot of people making money like Pfizer and Moderna by using liability shields that were oddly given to them by Republicans, although Republicans act like they're so not in on it. Reagan and Bush were in on it, just like Trump was in on it. And Reagan gave him the first liability shield and Bush gave him the second liability shield. And there comes Donald Trump to use the liability shields and hire pharmaceutical lobbyists and, you know, Epstein protectors like Acosta, who then come in and just do whatever the swamp wants. And you guys sit there flat-footed like it's not a mistake. These people don't give a crap about you. But anyway, recently some doctor or some guy made a video talking about how, because Vivek had so many pharmaceutical companies, he had like Axovant, Datavant, he was spinning them all off doing, you know, over in China, doing like little gigs and stuff, whatever. But in general, then somebody realized that he was like, you know, had some sort of patent or some sort of company that was in on the nanolipid particles, part of like the mRNA vaccine. And people are calling that out. They're like, oh, he's in on the vaccines. And his, you know, campaign manager came on Twitter and was like, no, you know, they're so smooth at just spinning things. Like if they write a book and it says that like Trump is a sore loser like Stacey Abrams, they never, like Vivek and his team never admit that they did that. I don't care that they did that. I think that that's a good chapter. Honestly, I mean, I wouldn't have written it, but I don't read it and think he's being dishonest. I think he's being more honest in the book he wrote than he is on the MAGA tour. I think he believes what he wrote in his book. Why would you write a book and not believe 4 months later what you wrote in your book? He's just lying to MAGA because he knows that MAGA would rather you lie to their face and suck off Trump than actually tell the truth about Trump. So the only way to make it in MAGA world is to just suck the dirt off of Trump's shoes. So that's what Vivek's been doing for a year. Does he believe it? I don't know. He's like a professional actor. But anyway, they came in the comment section of this like, you know, nanolipid particles thing that's, you know, someone claiming that Vivek was in on the vaccine technology. And she comes to his defense. It was like, oh, no, you're wrong. We're suing Moderna. We're suing them. It's like, Moderna and Pfizer are suing. There's a lawsuit between Moderna and Pfizer. Does that prove that Moderna's not in on it? No, they're trying to cash out on the technology because they had the tech. I believe Moderna, which has a government patent, is trying to cash out on the Pfizer technology and claim they stole it. So by her claiming that they're in lawsuits with Moderna, that doesn't prove that he's not in on it. That proves that he probably is in on it because he wants the money from the product that they use, from the technology that he had or thinks he had. So it's like they're such snakes and chameleons, which is fine. But it's like, you know, I don't buy these people for a second. And now the funniest part about all this is you have Trump supporters literally like 5 days ago that were saying Vivek is MAGA. Now on Twitter, they're saying he's not MAGA. It's like that meme of the NPC where these people have no critical thinking skills of their own. They literally just believe what Trump says. So like a week ago, Trump tweeted about how great Vivek was, and all these Trump worshipers are like, Vivek is our guy. And then the second that Trump tweets that Vivek is not your guy, he's trying to steal votes from Trump, then they're like, Vivek is not MAGA. It's like, dude, these people are dumber than liberals. It doesn't matter if you put on a MAGA hat. And I'm not saying people who vote for Trump are dumb. I'm just saying people that literally just export their opinions to whatever he writes on True Social are literally crazier to me than a liberal. And these are the type of people that they'd rather their son be trans than for somebody to question Donald Trump. It's like they you know, it's like that is their religion and their worldview. So they just like run back and forth. It's nuts. But long story short, I would say personally with the Iowa primary, I would love to see Trump get challenged just Overton window wise. Like the fact that nobody thinks anymore and everybody just kind of like does what he does and defends him from an arrest. Like the elites have used this as like a 3-year circle run. And now you're going to start to see it collapsing because it's not built on anything real. And I think that there's going to be a major fallout because There's 3 people in this race right now. I mean, Nikki Haley doesn't count. Everybody knows she sucks. Maybe that's the only way to unite. Everybody's got to unite and say Nikki Haley sucks, and that's how we reunite. Because if not, it's going to be tough. With that being said, you had DeSantis run a campaign, piss a lot of people off because people don't want Trump to be challenged, and because DeSantis challenged Trump, a lot of people see him as unloyal. A lot of people hate when he talks about things that Trump didn't do right. But listening to DeSantis about Trump, he's telling the truth. Like everything that DeSantis is saying about Trump is literally true. And people don't like the truth in MAGA because when the truth goes against Trump, you're supposed to lie. Like you're only allowed to be honest in the Trump movement if Trump's also being honest, which is like when Trump's being honest, it's a great movement. It's like he's telling the truth, I'm telling the truth. It's a honest movement. When Trump starts spiraling, which he's been doing for the last 2 years, like, oh, Florida, because DeSantis challenged me. I mean, it's just the sunny weather that makes the politics good. It's like, are you dumb? California's hot. The politics are not good in California just because it's hot. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard, no matter who says it. Like, Trump is so annoying to me right now. I despise him as much as I despise AOC. Like, I have to block him out because he's that annoying to me. He's so fake. He's so cringe. And when he goes off and says stuff like that, then if you just say the truth, people get mad at you. It's like during COVID, when he said Sweden should have locked down, I still have the tweet saved. April 30th, 2020. I said, that's wrong. Sweden should stay open. That's freedom. You're a salesman for communism. People got mad at me. So when Trump pushes communism, MAGA turns into communists and they make excuses for it, or they say he doesn't know what he's talking about, or it's a secret code. He puts on a white hat and hands out pizza, and people start squirting in their pants, being like, oh my gosh, the white hat, the pizza. Guys, he's not doing anything. Like, he wore a white hat. I have a white hat here. Does that mean I'm QAnon? Like, these people are nuts. Like, you're not supposed to tell the truth. You're not supposed to be a capitalist or a freedom fighter. If Trump says Sweden lockdown, then that's what it is, or they should have locked down. How dare you tell the truth? Like, it's not a movement based on truth. It's a movement running circles around a 77-year-old man who's literally spiraling because for whatever reason, he doesn't like to tell the truth anymore. So it's like DeSantis ran the campaign basically just challenging Trump on things that Trump needed to be challenged on. My goal when DeSantis ran, you could find old videos, I said, I'm glad he's running. Whether Trump wins or DeSantis wins, hopefully DeSantis running means that they're both going to challenge each other and iron sharpens iron. It's like MJ, going one-on-one against like LeBron. I'm not saying they're that cool, but it's like, at the end of the day, when great people come together to compete, it's supposed to produce great results. What we found out, and this is no one's fault but our own, this isn't liberals' fault, this isn't the bankers' fault, this isn't George Soros' fault, and this isn't the Democrats' fault or the rhinos' fault, it's MAGA's fault. When DeSantis chose to run, you didn't have to vote for him, you didn't have to like him, you didn't have to trust him, you didn't have to not talk about his donors and all that, do all that stuff. But could you tell the truth? Could you be honest? Could you be fair? And the answer is no. It exposed how fake everybody is in the conservative movement. People lost their freaking minds when he ran. He shouldn't have run. How dare him say that? And the movement's been spiraling ever since. I didn't even care if Trump beat DeSantis. In some ways at the beginning, I was hoping he would. It's like, what? But at least I'm like, at least DeSantis is going to challenge him on his money printing. He's going to challenge him on his terrible COVID record. He's going to challenge him on the fact that he hired literally the pharmaceutical swamp when DeSantis hired Joseph Ladapo, who's actually a good guy for Surgeon General. That's one of the best hires in the entire country. Joseph Ladapo, Surgeon General. That proves that DeSantis has the capability to hire somebody outside the pharmaceutical system. That's important. And no one cared. It's like DeSantis lost the day he ran against Trump for running against Trump. So DeSantis showed everybody and I'm not saying he couldn't have done things better. I'm not like, there's a lot of weirdos in his campaign. Some of the people on Twitter do act insane. Sometimes they like me, sometimes they hate me, but they respect me because they know I'm telling the truth and I'm not just a shill. But in general, I'm not making excuses for him. There's things that he absolutely could have done better to give himself a chance. But I truly believe it doesn't matter what DeSantis would have done. People didn't like the fact that he challenged Trump. They thought it was unloyal. They didn't want him to question his narrative. That's when I realized that we're not running a serious movement. We're running a high school movement where everybody acts like high school girls and they just want to get drunk with Don Jr. at Mar-a-Lago or it's like it's a big high school event. Like it's like a prom. Everybody just wants to go to the galas and see the next Dinesh D'Souza event so they could take a selfie. It's like it's a joke, and take a selfie. I don't care. I've taken ones before, but it's just like I started, and a lot of honest people started seeing the disconnect. You're like, oh, so many people don't actually care about what we talk about. They literally just care about social circles and cloud and sponsors. And, the whole thing has kind of devolved. This brings me to my next point about Vivek, because he did the opposite strategy as DeSantis, right? And I know that there are two ways. Like, if you see somebody doing something, I think there's a lot of different interpretations, but I've seen two different things prominently. One is like people that get inspired. If you see someone doing something great or honest, it inspires you, right? You're like, oh my gosh, look at that truth teller who's not afraid to tell the truth. Like that's inspiring. I want to do that, right? Look at that guy really working out. He was fat, now he's skinny. I want to do that. That's a great thing. Letting other people inspire you, right? Wow, that was a really good Jordan Peterson speech about gender. That's inspiring, right? It's a beautiful thing. We all get inspired by others, physically, mentally. Like, there's great people out there that shouldn't make you feel bad or anything, but should inspire you to do better or to enjoy yourself or whatever. And I have nothing wrong with that. I've always tried to inspire people. Hopefully I have. Many have inspired me. I'm sure I've inspired many, and the world goes around, right? And then I think there's people that are called opportunists. I know this. I've seen different people do it different ways. I've seen people that saw what was going on in MAGA and conservative movement and politics and the new age of internet and influencers and whatever, and thought, I want to do that because that's more profitable than what I'm doing. And I've seen people do that where they're like, oh, I'm going to be a truther. And it's like, is it because you like the truth? They're like, well, I like my truth t-shirts. And you're like, okay. And they're like, in the truth gigs. And it's like, and I'm not, listen, if you're a truther, I'm not asking you to be poor. I'm not crying. Start a business, make money, provide for yourself. Because at the end of the day, people will flip on you on a dime. You gotta hold it down for yourself. So I'm not saying like, oh, no one should make money. I'm just saying there are people who look at stuff and say, that's a cash cow. Look how much money these people are spending. Look how big the events are. Nobody cares about my music. It's not popping. It's like it's boring. It's stale. That's where the money is. That's where the power is. And I don't know which one Vivek is, but I do believe that, it's an interesting trajectory, right? Because I've seen people that really got inspired for the right reasons. And then I've seen people that I can almost guarantee just saw this truther, anti-COVID movement, pro-Trump movement as a cash cow. And it's like 7 years later, they were nowhere to be found from 2016 to 2021 or 2022 when everything mattered. And now all of a sudden they're popping up. It's like, dude, it's not rocket science. Like, there's so much there's such a huge audience here that literally has very low expectations. It's a beautiful thing about conservatives and Christians. It's a pro and a con, right? Sometimes kindness is weakness. The good thing is people are so nice. They're so giving. They're so caring. And it's a beautiful thing. The bad news is people are just easily duped. So it's like you could literally be like a serial killer and put a MAGA hat on and people will be like, that's a good guy. It's one of those things where for every 50 good people that come to the awakening of like conservatism isn't that bad, of course there's going to be grifters and scammers and opportunists that are like, wow, look at that. And even in media, my big beef with media is not that everybody agrees with me or that we all come to the same conclusions, but I know for a fact that like 80 to 90% of conservative media that dominates everything, they're not even trying to tell you guys the truth. Like, it's about going to Mar-a-Lago. How many times do I say and think stuff like this? I'm like, all right, this person used to be very honest, and now they've been very weird and very fake and very cringe. And the next thing you know, they're at Mar-a-Lago. And the next thing you know, they're at Mar-a-Lago again. Once you get to Mar-a-Lago, you can't do journalism on Donald Trump. I don't hate Vivek, but I'm trying to do journalism. Has a hedge fund and a pharmaceutical past that nobody's asking him about. How could I not ask him? It's not like he was a prominent Republican in 2020 leading against the lockdowns. He wasn't really anywhere. And what he was saying, even on the news, was very like generic politically stuff where it's like this. I'm not impressed. So it's like, I'm going to ask these questions because that's my job. So many people, they're getting lobbied by Trump and lobbied by the system where it's like, okay, I have this sponsorship and I've gone here. If I go here and treat him the same way I treat DeSantis, I lose everything. So they just kick it DeSantis because it's easy to do. DeSantis doesn't have that much power. I know everybody likes to say he's so well connected and stuff. He gets donor money. Trump gets donor money. But in many ways, it's like he doesn't have this like cash cow economy built around him. It's not like people are buying DeSantis hats and DeSantis merch. And, like nobody cares. He doesn't have like the following and charisma. But anyway, with Vivek on that same topic, I don't know who he is. Only time will tell. But me personally, I watched his trajectory just in general, and he seems like a highly ambitious person, right? Highly ambitious, highly intelligent, extreme opportunist. And, in some ways, an opportunist is good. They look for opportunity. In other ways, it's not. I don't think opportunist is a word that people look like, oh, you're an opportunist. Thank you. You wouldn't say thank you. You'd be like, hey, no, I'm not. But, there's an element to it that's impressive when you're super ambitious. But like, let's look at how Trump is like the lead figure of this movement, right? DeSantis tries to run a campaign where he calls Trump out for his flaws, and he gets absolutely destroyed. And then Vivek pops up, and he's running the opposite campaign of DeSantis, where he's going to run on, I would say further right than Trump, further conservative than Trump, further liberty than Trump, what DeSantis tried to do. But he's also complimenting Trump the whole time and basically babying Trump. When I had him on my show, he goes, DeSantis did this with Soros and that was Soros. And it's like, and then this guy took a $140 million loan, he said, and I said, which guy? Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, if you're not smart, Vivek is so impressive to you because he'll run circles around you. The guy's like very high IQ. But if you have a high IQ and you're smart, or you have good instinct and you're like spiritually sound and you don't lie to yourself and you have good intuition and discernment, you can see the little games he plays. It's like Trump's connections to Soros are way bigger than DeSantis's connections to Soros, but he'll only mention them without mentioning Trump's name, because if he knows if he goes around a bunch of podcasts that says Trump, 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 Soros, the Trump people get mad. So he has to play this game of like saying it, but not really saying it. Or like, did you read my chapter? Yeah, I did read it, Vivek. It's satire. It's not satire. You wrote what you wrote. I'm not mad at what you wrote, but he knows that most of you are not smart enough or keen enough to go read the chapter yourself. I implore you, give the guy more money. He's got $1 billion. Give him some more money. Go buy his book and read the chapter about Trump and Stacey Abrams. And tell me, when you read that chapter, do you think, oh, that's just satire, he didn't mean that? Or are you thinking, oh, no, he literally wrote that Trump was a sore loser, was lying about the election? Like, that's what he wrote. I'm not mad at him writing that. I would have more respect for him if he said that now. But he's not going to run the campaign DeSantis. It's like a chameleon. That's who this guy is. He's whoever you want him to be, which are the people that I trust the least, right? If you say, I like Trump, here's why I like Trump, this is the way I am, you don't have to like it, but I like Trump. So I saw a picture of some kids that were at an event with a Trump sign, and someone asked them a question. They said, we don't really follow politics. We just think Trump's funny. I thought that was hilarious. Like, I love the honesty. They're just broing out. They're like, Trump's funny. We don't care about politics, but we like Trump because he's funny. It's like, we're just here for the comedy. That's honest. You know what I'm saying? Or I like this about Trump. That's honest. I don't trust people that just say whatever you want. That like, oh, I'm at a DeSantis event, he's my favorite politician. Then I go to a Trump event, he's my favorite politician. That's the vibe I get from Vivek, where it's like, you're just saying what everyone wants you to say, and it's starting to fall apart because it doesn't actually make sense. Like, how do you write a book, 5 months later say the opposite, try to pretend like your book is just total satire when it's literally just not? And then you're also like, I love Trump, but I'm running against Trump. If you like Trump so much, get out of the way. He's just being a suck up. He's like, oh, I'm going to take myself off the ballot if Trump's off the ballot. It doesn't matter if you're off or on the ballot, because you're not going to win the election anyway. You're just running for a cabinet position or attention or cloud, or I don't really know, but it's like, okay. And then everyone's like, wow, that, like, he's running the biggest fake campaign ever. Like, I'm challenging Trump, but I'm not challenging Trump. I don't want to be mean to him, but I want to win, but I don't want to win. I'm not going against you. So Trump eventually is just like, all right, screw you. He's like, stop doing that. And then Vivek's like, what? It's like, either you're running to beat the guy or you're not. You can't be like half in and half out. But that's all I'm saying with his whole thing. It's like, I can't get behind somebody who just says everything everyone wants to say all the time. When he's on Mad Money Mike, he's saying the perfect stuff. Go watch that interview to see how good he is at saying something that's not true or that's not going to pan out. He's a mastermind of it. He's like a professional sleazeball salesman. Like, he's on Money Mike, or whatever that thing's called, Mad Money, with Jim Cramer trying to hawk his Alzheimer's drug. Like, he's saying all the perfect things, right? And then he comes here, he says all the perfect things. It's like, I love his rhetoric. One thing I read, somebody said this on Twitter, and I'm like, what the hell? Someone said, Anomaly, even if he doesn't produce the outcomes and just says these things, that's okay with me. So imagine being a person that says, I don't have, and like, to me, I think there's a chance that he might do some of this stuff. Like, he almost like, it would be weird if he didn't, but there's people that are like looking up to Vivek, and they're like, I don't even care if he does any of this stuff. I'm just glad he's talking about that. Do you know what it's called when you talk about doing something, but you don't do it? A lie or a failure. It's like, hey, I'm going to return your car to your house tomorrow. And then I crash the car with the keys, like Obama said, or whatever the stupid, but you get what I'm saying? Like an analogy. It's like, how is that good to get someone to say things like Trump said, I'm going to lock her up, but then didn't lock her up. But you're happy that he just said it. Trump said he's going to drain the swamp, but then he hired the swamp. Like, why would you be happy that he just said it and not did it? Like, if I'm like, hey, I'm going to pay for your meal. Let's order $1,000 worth of stuff. I'll pay for your meal. Thanks, Anomaly. Thanks for saying that. Oh, no, but I'm not actually going to pay for your meal. You get the check. I just said that. I'm not actually doing that. Thanks, Anomaly. Like, how weak and pathetic do you have to be like, I don't even care if he does it? Like, what? That doesn't even make sense. Like, if Trump wins, I hope he does. Why would I want him to run and say things and not do it? Like, I hope Trump fixes the border and like deports people. Like, I don't want him to just say it, but this is what we're dealing with in politics. A bunch of people who act like this, they're like, I don't even care. It's like, so what? I don't even understand. So, I think that's the dynamic of today. I don't really care who wins, to be honest, but Trump is like the head of the universe, right? DeSantis tried to challenge the head of the universe and likely failed. And Vivek tried to suck up to the head of the universe and eventually ran into a wall, because you can't just like suck up forever. Like, eventually you have to have a stance. Like, you watch interviews with him. He's on some news shows saying we live in a democracy. He's on other ones saying we live in a republic. I'm sorry, but usually when people say that we live in a republic and this is a republic, it's not a democracy, they're not just going to call it, like, he's just whatever he has to be at the time in order to please people. I just don't want a pharmaceutical CEO who was a former hedge fund manager, who was nowhere in 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021 until 2022. Like, you guys can't find a better person to lead that's what we're left with. And the only reason that we're left with this stuff now, when I mention this to people, sorry, I'm a little passionate about this and I haven't talked in a few days, but like when I say certain concepts to people, they start panicking because they're like, well, Trump's the best we got. Well, that's all we have. Why is that all we have, though? That's all we have because you guys lied to yourself and lied to your audience from 2020 to 2023. That's why that's all that we have. Like, the people that are making this happen panic when they have to. It's like this weird psychological thing where they just lie to themselves and then panic at the truth. It's like, that's all we got. Trump's all we got. Why is he all we have? He's a 77-year-old vaccine pharmaceutical scammer who printed more money than Obama, runs around stage with Lindsey Graham, and doesn't even make sense like he used to in 2018. He used to say intelligent stuff. He doesn't anymore. He's like an idiot. Why is he the only? Because you made him the only one. You didn't allow somebody to challenge him. When DeSantis told the truth about him, you rejected it. Like, I'm not asking you to vote for DeSantis, but allow the Overton window to shift back to normality. It's not anywhere near normality because nobody allowed anyone to say the truth about Trump. They all kissed his ass. They all covered it up. So now we're stuck with that and a pharmaceutical CEO who, is just like databasing everything that everybody says and spitting it out like an algorithm. It's not like, I just don't understand the concept of like, you don't allow for a shift to happen. The shift doesn't happen. We get to the election and now you're like, that's all we have. And don't tell me anything else. It's like, okay. I don't get the dynamic of it. I want to play this clip real quick because somebody made a compilation of this. It's Donald Trump complimenting people, hiring them, saying how great they are, and then just talking trash about them. It's good to fire people who don't do the right job, but this just shows you. It's like, if this is the type of leader you are, if you constantly hire horrible people and compliment them and kiss their ass and then like yell at them, you just look like an idiot. Like this is what people want, a leader like this. It makes no sense to me.
Understands that the job of Attorney General is to serve and protect the people of the United States. And that is exactly what he will do, and do better than anybody else can. Jeff Sessions was a disaster as Attorney General. Should have never been Attorney General. He's not qualified. He's not mentally qualified to be Attorney General. We hope Bill Barr is going to be as good as we think, because Bill is he's a great gentleman, a great man. And by the way, when Bill Barr, who's, a coward, Bill Barr was a coward. Bill Barr didn't do what he was supposed to do. I fired him, and he has great hatred. In his new role as chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Milley will serve as my top military advisor. I have absolute confidence that he will fulfill his duty with the same brilliance and fortitude he has shown throughout his long and very distinguished career. Milley, frankly, was incompetent. The last one I'd want to attack with as my leader would be Milley. John Kelly will do a fantastic job. General Kelly has been a star, done an incredible job thus far, respected by everybody. A great, great American. I know John Kelly. He was with me, didn't do a good job, had no temperament, and ultimately he was petered out. He was exhausted. This man was totally exhausted. He wasn't even able to function. I am confident that Jay has the wisdom and leadership to guide our economy through any challenges that our great economy may face. And, you know, I had my own situation with Powell, and I beat the hell out of him. I was not a big fan of Powell. He was recommended by some people. I didn't like him. We are going to appoint Mad Dog Mattis as our Secretary of Defense. They say he's the closest thing to General George Patton that we have, and it's about time. It's about time. Mattis was a highly overrated general, didn't do the job, didn't do good on ISIS. Mattis was fired, as you know, by President Obama, and I fired him also. Rex Tillerson, Secretary of State. Going to do a great job. He's respected all over the world, and I think he's going to go down as one of our great, great secretaries.
In an angry tweet this morning, he called Tillerson, quote, dumb as a rock and totally ill-prepared and ill-equipped to be Secretary of State.
Mark Esper, who is a highly respected gentleman with a great career, West Point, Harvard, a tremendous talent, was just named acting Secretary of Defense.
He has said, quote, you were a lightweight, a figurehead. He said Mark Esper was weak, totally ineffective. He said he would do anything I wanted.
Secretary Chow, you've been so fantastic in so many ways. Transportation, it's just moving along, and you've done a fantastic job for me and for the country, and I appreciate all that you do.
In his post on Truth Social, Trump said McConnell, quote, has a death wish and must immediately seek help and advice from his China-loving wife, Coco Chow.
Oh, my God.
The funniest thing about Trump on True Social calling Mitch McConnell's wife like a China-loving wife, Coco Chow. Did you know that Trump hired his wife, was it McConnell, to run the Secretary of Transportation? Like she's some sort of whiz with transportation. So like the joke is on us when we're like, oh, why would Biden hire Pete Buttigieg for transportation? He knows nothing, which is true. You're totally right. But this is why real people are starting to not respect you, and you're becoming a parody of who everybody thought we were, right? And it's annoying me because I consider myself a part of this. And it's like, I'm embarrassed now. I'm like embarrassed to be a part of this group where it's like, oh, look at Pete Buttigieg got hired. Yes, let's call it out. But then I say, well, Trump hired Mitch McConnell's wife that he's now calling China for 4 years. He didn't fire her. And then it's like, oh, he's so smart. Oh, he's dumb as a... Like, at what point is Trump just an idiot? It's like so embarrassing. Like, we're so fake. Oh, the pharmaceutical industry is corrupt. Well, Trump hired him. Yeah, but we don't care. Why? I don't know, because I'm not told to care. Then who cares about your movement? It's all fake. It's going to collapse, whether he wins or this person. Trump's probably going to win the primary. Vivek has no chance. DeSantis can't win, apparently, against Trump. So, like, we're stuck with this. Like, where's it going to go? I don't know. In the one clip, too, he said that he got told by advisors to hire this person and it was a bad choice. Trump is like an actor and a clown where he just like says things. He's great. He's dumb. He's awesome. He's smart. He's stupid. He's a clown. He's like a circus clown. They put him there. He's a puppet. And by the way, Biden's not being run by Obama. That's the stupidest thing that Republicans are supporting. Biden is a puppet and Obama's a puppet. There's people way above them to be like, oh, Obama's running Biden. No, he's not. He wasn't even running his own administration. And Trump, it's the same thing. It's like, oh, you know, I got fooled by my advisors. Why? Why are you always getting fooled? You know, the whole Chris Christie thing, I pointed this out. And for people that are smart enough or at least honest enough, you could figure out that he's full of crap if you just pay attention to this topic. He used to always make fun of Chris Christie, just like he does now. He did that when he ran the first time. He said all the same stuff, all the same jokes, all the same fat stuff. And then he said on Sean Hannity that he hired, what was the guy's name that runs Biden's FBI? Christopher Wray. He hired Christopher Wray because Chris Christie told him to. So if you're an analytical person, you have the data. In 2015, Trump calls Chris Christie fat and makes fun of him. In his administration, 2017, 2018, 2019, he listens to Chris Christie, tries to hire Chris Christie, and hires one of his most important quote-unquote deep state positions because Chris Christie told him to. Is Trump a puppet of Chris Christie? And then, everybody loves the fat jokes now. I call it Trump slop now because it's like feeding leftover meatloaf to the base. Like, here's some Trump slop, boys and girls, and everyone's like, Chris Christie fat jokes. The joke is on you. He told those same jokes in 2015, and then Chris Christie puppeted his administration and told him who to hire for FBI, and Trump listened because he always listens. Name 5 people in his cabinet that weren't swampers. You can't, because his whole cabinet was swamp. Secretary of State, swamp. FBI, swamp. CIA, swamp. HHS, pharmaceutical lobbyist. FDA, pharmaceutical person. His whole cabinet was swamped. Secretary of Transportation, Mitch McConnell's wife, who he then makes fun of when he's out of power. He hired her for 4 years. He's a liar. He's a joke. But that's all we have. Why is that all we have? Because you guys were too fake for 3 years. Who cares who wins? Who cares if Vivek wins? Who cares if Biden wins? Who cares if Trump wins? Who cares if DeSantis wins? Hopefully the Republicans win and build a wall, but who knows if they'll even do that? They'll probably knock it down, build it back full of vaccines, and then cry victim and be like, I'm getting arrested. It's like, who cares? Like, I hope Republicans win so they actually do something, but who knows if they're even trying to do something? Another stupid thing that happened recently that nobody could figure out is Matt Gaetz kicks out or is part of the movement to kick out Kevin McCarthy, right? So he kicks out Kevin McCarthy. Cool. Don't care. Kevin McCarthy sucks. Whatever. He's an establishment, finesser. Whatever. Kicks out Kevin McCarthy. Some guy that no one's ever heard of before. Speaker Mike Johnson gets in. And Speaker Mike Johnson sucks just as bad as Kevin McCarthy, if not worse. I'm at the point now where I think that he's even worse. Okay? Matt Gaetz makes a documentary about it or a film about it and just starts celebrating like he did something. He knows he didn't do anything. I know he didn't do anything. Everybody knows that he didn't make Congress any better. This guy's just as bad at best, if not worse. But he's selling a film about it. He doesn't give a shit. He's just like an actor. Like, he's so happy he's popular. He's like a loser dweeb in high school that nobody gave a crap about because he's just like a preppy guy. Now he's everybody's star. What did he do? He just made something about himself that didn't even happen. Do you realize, if I made a documentary about how I got rid of Kevin McCarthy and then Speaker Johnson came in, I'd shelve my documentary because I'd be embarrassed. I'd be like, oh wait, I didn't even do anything. At least if I'm gonna make a documentary about myself, I gotta put Thomas Massey at the head of Congress or something. I really beat up the deep state there. Not replacing a puppet with an even bigger puppet and then patting yourself on the back and putting out a documentary about it. These people are idiots. But the reason they get away with it is because everybody just obsesses over them, even though they do nothing. Trump's like, forget about locking Hillary up. And people are like, yeah, learn a lesson. We all made a mistake. We all got tricked at a certain point, but it couldn't be more obvious at this point. And it's like, what are our options? I don't know. I'm not responsible for all this. I've been telling the truth since 2020 about all this stuff, trying to get people to figure it out. And once you figure it out, they can't lie to you anymore. But if you keep lying to yourself and being like, let me talk about Alvin Bragg for 4 years, you lose. It's like, and then you start panicking, what do I do? What do I do? I don't know. What are you doing? Before I play the Malcolm X clip, I wanted to say, I'm just addressing these things because I feel like it's interesting. And I'd rather talk about it than argue with people on Twitter. One of the worst things to do is text-based argue. One of the better things to do is actually have a conversation about it. But, someone said to me, you're apathetic. And I have to drive this point home because it's so important. I'm not apathetic in real life, okay? I'm a doer. I'm a go-getter. I'm ambitious. I created a media company by myself. You get what I'm saying? I'm not bragging. I'm just saying I'm the opposite of apathetic. I'm a man. I've created a legacy, right? I just did 2 music shows. I'm not bragging. I'm not I'm not Drake or anything. I'm not selling out freaking Toronto, but it's you know what I'm saying? I live a pretty cool life. I work really hard. And I have a long way to go. You know, I'm not stopping or anything, but it's like, I'm not an apathetic person at all. I'm one of the least apathetic people. Like I'm a doer. I do things. People that don't do things, they think that apathy means like telling the truth about politics, like because you don't do anything. And I'm not like, oh, if you don't do what I do, you're not cool. It's not what I'm saying. There's a lot of more important people that do less than that. I'm not that special. I'm just saying, like, people that are apathetic in their own life, like maybe you're a shitty father, or you're just getting drunk and, you know, like ignoring your kids. It's like, and then you think like obsessing over Vivek Ramaswamy is going to make you a better person. Or like, if you don't take care of yourself, but you're at the couch begging for Trump, like, that's not what the word apathetic means. It's like, I know what it means, but it's like, you think I'm apathetic about politics because I'm just telling the truth about it, but you're not apathetic because you are apathetic in real life, but you obsess over politicians. It's not coming from loyalty. It's coming from weakness. It's coming from, you're not a real man. You don't stand up for yourself. You don't love your family enough to tell the truth. You have no self-awareness. You have no ambition. You have no drive. You have no capability to be a real American man and say no when Trump or DeSantis pass. Like, if anyone infringes on the First Amendment, which Trump and DeSantis both have done, or the Second Amendment, which Trump did, you as a man should not be apathetic. You should say, listen, Trump, or listen, DeSantis, I'm a real American man, and you shouldn't be infringing on the First or Second Amendment. But what MAGA does and what conservatives do is they say, I don't care because I'm a fan, and I'm just going to say Anomaly's apathetic. I'm not apathetic. I didn't go along with all the COVID stuff. I didn't put on a mask and inject myself with a vaccine. It's like, how many conservatives do you have that are crying on Twitter that probably like got their kids vaccinated to go play sports in college? It's like, you couldn't even protect your own kids. You can't even protect your own family. Couldn't even stand up for yourself. Yet you think apathy means to just like tell the truth about politics. It's like, people that are apathetic in their lives, in their family, in their business, think that they can make up for their real life apathy by putting all of their faith and trust into a politician who used to be a hedge fund manager and a pharmaceutical CEO, or a businessman who owns casinos that's been a millionaire his whole life and has $1 billion and, you know, used to donate to Hillary Clinton. And that's like, you get what I'm saying? The disconnect is people just don't, they're not like real people. It's like they get so mad and think that like, oh, if you don't think that Trump, Vivek, or DeSantis is going to save the country, then you're just apathetic. No, I'm not an idiot, and I'm not pathetic, and I'm not weak. So if it doesn't happen, then I'll make moves, just like during COVID. It's not like I sat in the corner and wore a diaper and pooped my pants and started crying. What's going on, Anomaly? Are you okay? No, I'm sad. Why are you sad? Because I thought Trump was going to arrest the deep state. I didn't think he was going to literally just lock the country up. It's like, no, I was like, oh, this is happening. That sucks. I guess I better act and do something to get out of a city and get to a safe suburb so I don't have to live, you know, and get stabbed 100 times in Los Angeles or whatever. It's like, you know, a man makes moves. They don't just cry like, it's like, if America's moving in the wrong direction and you have, you know, politicians that some are good options, some like it's not apathetic to tell the truth about it. What you have, and I'm not trying to be a dick, in this country is a bunch of people that don't take care of themselves. If you can't even take care of yourself, if you don't even care that they're putting poison and toxic ingredients into things that we're eating and drinking, and a lot of the products that you're spraying on your body all the time. I'm not trying to tell people what to do or whatever, but it's like, I haven't used like soap from the stores in years, unless it's like holistic organic ingredients. I don't use these products. You know what I'm saying? It's been a long time before I even talked about Trump. Like, and I'm not saying I'm perfect. I eat some shitty stuff, and, you know, I trust my immune system and my body and my digestion system to do it. I'm not perfect. I drink sometimes. I eat shitty food. I'm not like acting like I'm a freaking bodybuilder or anything, but it's like, I've weeded out a lot of toxic shit, because it's like, at the end of the day, whether Trump or Biden wins, that water is going to be the same quality. So you might as well filter it. Whether Trump or Biden wins, that soap still has those ingredients, and none of them care about it. And why is it happening in this country? Why is like some of the stuff happening in this country not even happening in third world countries? Because the people in those countries probably wouldn't even accept it. They probably don't hate themselves that much. Where in this country, it's like, you got a bunch of people can't even take care of themselves, can't even complain about the fact that there's toxic ingredients and everything. All of the toxic ingredients would go away if everybody noticed that they were there and stopped buying the crap. But people love to buy that shit, so they keep selling it. And that's the story of politics. It's like, how could people that don't even care about themselves stand up against a vaccine mandate or a politician that takes pharmaceutical money. So what you have is tens of millions of people that live vicariously through their hate of Donald Trump and literally think Rachel Maddow is going to fight Donald Trump because they watch her on television. And really what these people are doing, these liberals, they're screaming help. You're just not hearing them. They need help. They're, you know what I'm saying, surrounded by 15 cats or whatever, and they think Donald Trump's going to stop their abortion or whatever. Like, I'm not trying to be a dick, but it's like these people are living vicariously through the Trump is a villain story because they don't want to face reality in their own lives. They're apathetic in their own lives. So now they think that they're fighting something by watching television. And then you get to the right, it's the same thing. There's a bunch of loser guys that are not doing anything, and they think that Trump is going to come save them. How is he going to save you? This country is a collective of all the people there. If you go to Maine in certain areas, there's no crime because the people don't commit crime. And you go to a major city, there is crime because the people there, it's a net sum of the people there is what makes a country. And you're expecting a politician or Vivek to save you, a pharmaceutical hedge fund guy. It's coming from weakness and inadequacy because people don't want to man up and be themselves. And if you actually manned up and be yourself, then these things wouldn't happen in the first place, and scammers wouldn't get through and liars wouldn't get through. And the Trump and DeSantis competition would have been a competition of strength and skill, not a big drama contest about who wore shoes and, you know, Trump saying stupid crap. Like it's like Kardashian culture, TMZ culture. And we're not victims. Like, I know Republicans want to say we're the victim to this and we're the victim to the election. You won in 2016. And Trump ended up selling vaccines for the pharmaceutical industry. Like, you're not a victim. That's the real stolen election. The real stolen election is it doesn't matter if Democrats or Republicans win. Even if the outsider gets in, he's not even an outsider, you know? And if your idea of an outsider is a hedge fund manager who took a Soros scholarship, who ended up, you know, doing pharmaceutical IPOs that crashed into the ground, that's your outsider, you deserve to lose. You know, it's like, this is my dynamic. I'm not pessimistic. I'm not hateful. I understand that if I want to get jacked, I have to work out. And if I don't work out, I'm not going to get jacked. So that's life. Like, if I want to do things, I got to do it. If I want more money, I got to work harder, work smarter. And if I want to make more money being ethical, it's going to be 30 times harder than if I was just a scammer. And that's the life I chose. I'd rather work 30 times harder and make a living than be a liar and a scammer, because that immorality would not sit right with me and I couldn't live with myself. So we all make decisions. We all have things to do. That's politics. You don't get results just by being a fan of Trump, and you don't just get results by being a fan of Vivek. I don't hate the guy, but it's like what you have is a bunch of loser beta male men who are pretending to be alphas who just sit around and like think that they're watching a Taylor Swift concert. And the similarities between Taylor Swift and Donald Trump are astronomical. Taylor Swift makes 15 songs about how her ex is her ex and her ex and her ex, and she's always getting got by men, and it's the fifth boyfriend and this and that. And all her music is like, oh, all these guys are so bad to me. I'm single until I date Travis Kelce. And it's like, at what point are you the problem? If you're always ruining relationships, you know, maybe you're the problem. You know, maybe it's you and not the guys. Maybe you pick bad guys because you have bad taste, you know, which is your fault. It's the same with Trump. He picks the deep state 100% of the time, trips over his feet, says they're the smartest person in the world and they're dumb. Like, at what point is it Trump's fault? Trump is the Taylor Swift of politics. He literally just trips over his own feet, blames everybody else, and brainwashes people into thinking that it's like some sort of heroic mission or something. It's like, no, you know, so it's a joke. I'm going to talk about this more in a second. I'm going to read some comments too, but I do want to weigh in on Malcolm X real quick because it is Martin Luther King Day. And, you know, what better way to ruin Martin Luther King Day than to play a clip of Malcolm X saying he's a phony. Charlie Kirk's getting in a lot of trouble for saying that MLK is a phony, which I find hilarious. We'll talk about it in a second. But here's that clip. Here's what Malcolm X thought of Martin Luther King.
You've called people like Martin Luther King, who just got a Nobel Peace Prize, an Uncle Tom. Is this correct, first?
Well, I'd rather say that in the States, there's a law that has recently been passed, or a decision handed down by the court, wherein if you call someone an Uncle Tom, they can sue you for libel.
Well,
so I never refer to them as Uncle Toms. I would say that Uncle Martin is my friend.
Uncle Martin is your friend, yet you would disagree with his approach to what he wants to accomplish.
Definitely. If his approach would bring about what the black man in America needs to completely eliminate the problem that we have, I would say well and good. But I very much doubt that anyone who adopts the approach that Martin Luther King has been teaching to our people in that country can point to any meaningful gains that has actually served to solve the problem.
Black Muslims have sometimes, whether you have or not, and I think probably you have sometimes, it seemed to me, been preaching hate to meet hate.
I don't advocate any kind of hate.
But there's a lot of talk that sounds very much like it.
No, I think that the guilt complex of the American white man is so profound until when you begin to analyze the real condition of the black man in America, instead of the American white man eliminating the causes that create that condition, he tries to cover it up by accusing his accusers of teaching hate. But actually, they're just exposing him for being responsible for what exists.
Well, that's something of an argument, but I've heard speeches made by some of the people of your group. I think I've heard you make speeches. It seemed to me that you were advocating, what I would have to describe, I think, as violence to meet the serious injuries that have been done your people, with which I totally agree.
I don't call that violence. I don't in any way encourage black people to go out and initiate acts of aggression indiscriminately against whites. But I do believe that the black man in the United States and any human being, anywhere, is well within his right to do whatever is necessary, by any means necessary, to protect his life and property, especially in a country where the federal government itself has proven that it is either unable or unwilling to protect the lives and property of those human beings.
Just before Pierre takes...
So a few takeaways real quick. First of all, do you notice how they just kept saying, you're hateful, you're hateful? They've always done this, right? And I've listened to a lot of Malcolm X. I've heard him talk about a lot of different topics, let's put it that way. And I would say, just for historical, this is a rule that I think is a good rule. Go find speeches and books of actual people saying what they think, right? Whether you like them or not. Why? Because that's what they're saying. And I know that even books, like they could have said one thing and did the other, but listening to someone talk about Malcolm X or listening to someone talk about this or that, it's their opinion. They could always, oh, he was hateful, he was violent. They say that about everybody good in America right now. And some people are, but most people are not. Like, you say the truth, they say it's hateful. You say this, they say it's anti-Semitic. You say this, they say it's racist. You say, you know, you want a male pilot, they say it's sexist. Everything's xenophobic. You want a border, you hate Mexicans. Everything's hateful in this world that's not even hateful, even if you just have an opinion or tell the truth about anything. So if they're saying in the history books all the time, I heard this growing up, oh, you know, Malcolm X was super hateful. MLK was nice and Malcolm X was so hateful. It's like, those are the same tactics they're using today. So that he had no argument against Malcolm X in that clip. He just kept saying hate, 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 hate. Interesting. Also interesting that Malcolm X called Martin an Uncle Tom. And then he was afraid of getting sued because they said it was libel. So he started calling him Uncle Martin because he was afraid of calling him Uncle Tom because they were threatening a lawsuit if he kept calling him Uncle Tom. That was interesting. And, you know, as far as MLK and his legacy, I never really thought much of it. You know, obviously I've been like conditioned to like Martin Luther King, like everyone has in America. He's like one of the most famous people in US history, especially modern history. And most people have no reason to ever question MLK Jr. because it's like, you know, any questions bother people, especially if you're like super normie. Me, I don't care that much, but some people get really bothered when you question stuff. Like, oh, well, can't I have anything? And it's like, why are you so mad? You know, I mean, unless you know him, maybe like if he was like your uncle or your grandfather or something, then I understand, you know, like MLK's family, they have every right to like defend his legacy. But if you're just like a random person and you just learned about him in a history book, why does it bother you so much to hear the other perspective? Me, I had on Chad Jackson last year, who Chad Jackson, friend of mine, great content creator. Check out his Instagram. He was in Uncle Tom and Uncle Tom 2. He's spent years researching this stuff. For those who didn't watch the show, he is a Black American man. Not that it matters, but, you know, I would say whether you're white or Black talking about MLK, you get hit from different angles. That, you know, if you're white, they'll call you racist. If you're Black, they'll call you an Uncle Tom. And you get like a different kind of pressure. I mean, the truth bothers people no matter which way, but like certain topics, I do feel like they almost hate when it's you saying it. Like when Candace or Chad questions Black narratives, I do feel like people get so mad because they feel like you're betraying them or whatever. But, you know, in general, Chad is very educated on this stuff, very smart guy. And he came on my show and explained why he said that Martin Luther King was a phony, a Marxist, and he was always like a plant. And the Civil Rights Act, in many ways gutted a lot of things and gutted the family structure of Black America. And now you see the fathers out of the home. And, there's an interesting thing that I saw about businesses when they passed some of these bills and acts. There were Black businesses, just like everyone just thinks, oh, white people are racist and white people just hate people or whatever. But there were Black businesses, Black schools, Black cab services. And once they passed these bills, they were now illegal. So I have a book. I'm trying to see if I can find it to show you guys. I don't know exactly where it is on my bookshelf, but it's called Color, Communism, and Common Sense by Manning Johnson. It was recommended to me by G. Edward Griffin, who's a genius and one of the best Americans in modern history. I read it. Brilliant book. Manning Johnson was a Black American in the 1900s who joined the Communist Party, but then realized that communists were scamming Black people in America. So he defected and went back to Christianity and told his story. Anyway, in the book, even though Manning Johnson was a Black conservative Christian writing the book, he said that he disagreed with a lot of these policies because every time they pushed race-based stuff and said, oh, we're fighting racism, Black things would go out of business. There were hundreds of Black teachers that now couldn't teach because they taught in Black schools, and those Black schools were illegal. So, we were taught that they ended racism, but they clearly didn't do that. Also, we were taught that they made everything better, but they also clearly didn't do that. In some ways, I'm sure they helped. But if you look at Little Rock, Arkansas, is Little Rock, Arkansas amazing now? No, I would say it's not a safe area. So it's like something went wrong. It's not like everything went right. And if families broke apart and people, the like fathers out of wedlock is astronomical, etc., like something happened. I'm not saying it's all of MLK's fault or whatever, but like you're not even allowed to touch that topic because it just makes you look racist. So most people are like, I'm not even going to talk about it because why would I? They're just going to get mad at me. Chad Jackson talks about it thoroughly. He knows way more about it than I do. And he says that it was a trick, and they just used him as a figurehead. So all I'm going to say before I move on to another topic is Charlie Kirk is basically saying the same thing on his Twitter. Charlie is super white and, he's going to get attacked from a different angle as Chad would, and they're going to call him racist or whatever. But, I'm watching the fallout of this. Of course, liberals are mad at Charlie Kirk, but also a lot of conservatives are mad at Charlie Kirk. And they're like, how dare you? Why are you doing this? Now you're making us all look racist. And how dare you, Charlie, question MLK? Like, this is so dumb. This is so bad for the Black vote. And all I'm going to say is this. If you're very educated on MLK and you're mad at Charlie Kirk, be mad at Charlie Kirk. But if you're not that educated on the topic and you just know what you were taught in history class and it bothers you that someone's questioning what you thought you knew, then why are you so mad? I find that if you really know, you know what I'm saying? Like you're very educated and you're like, you've read 5 books on MLK and you've watched 15 documentaries and like, everything about it and you're so mad, then be mad. But if you literally know nothing and he's questioning a narrative, like people get mad at the dumbest stuff. So, Charlie Kirk says stuff wrong all the time and no one cares. He says one thing that's actually accurate and everybody spirals, but Charlie, I don't think he's going to back down, but it's like, if you do believe that MLK was a phony, make your case and state it accurately of what you think and then let other people debate it. But, he's getting a lot of heat for that, obviously. But that's America. People are so egotistical about things that they barely know. Watch when certain people question the shape of the earth, how mad people get. If you think the earth is a globe, like they told you, don't care. If you think it's flat, also don't care. But when you say certain things and you watch people say it, you see people that don't even think about it spiral. Like if you're Neil deGrasse Bison Tyson or some of these people, or Shil Nye, the Democratic Party spy guy, or whoever, and it's your job to be the science guy or whatever, it's like, okay, you can get mad. I don't necessarily believe you, but I've been studying the globe. I'm a pilot, or, if you have some sort of experience where you've really thought about it and studied it, you can get annoyed. I mean, you can get annoyed anyway, but it's like so many people get mad at the flat earth theory that have never thought about it. I just find it fascinating because if someone says I'm a flat earther or it's a globe or it's a triangle, I'm just not going to get upset at that. I might not agree. I might think it's crazy or whatever, but this is why I know so much, is because I know that I don't know. I know this like Socrates repackaged or whatever, and I'm not trying to act like I'm so profound, but it's like, I think the ability to know what you know and know what you don't know allows you to grow. It's like I could talk to someone for 20 minutes and I could learn 3 things from them, and I could tell them 20 important things and they learn nothing from me. A smart person knows how to learn new things, right? I see this happen all the time. It's like I'm retaining new information, I'm considering things, and other people don't, and that's how they stay on the same path, where it's like, if you're going to get so mad at the globe and the flat earth, but you've never thought about it. Someone said I'm babbling. I'm not, though. It's just like, it's just, why do you think it is that? I'm not saying you're wrong. You're probably right. But like, why is it that? Because I was told that. Have you ever looked into it in the last 30 years? Like, I was told a lot of things in school. I was told that Frosted Flakes were really healthy for you. I was told that Cheerios are good potassium or whatever. Like, you get what I'm saying? It's like, they told me a lot of things in school, and they tried to tell me that eating sugar and shitty grain in the morning that's probably GMO and toxic is healthy for a young kid. And they were clearly lying. So it's like, me learning something 30 years ago is not a good reason to get upset over a theory. It's like, if someone came to me and was like, Anomaly, I think Trump's working for the elites and I like Trump. I'm not like, no. It's like, I'm listening. Okay, I'm listening. Tell me why. Try to prove it to me. But people get so mad, even though they've never thought for a day in their lives about it. It's fascinating. Same with MLK. It's like, the people that are going to get the most mad over Charlie saying that MLK was a phony are going to be people that have never researched it, never done independent studying, never considered both sides, never dove deeper in it. They're just mad that they're challenging their like preconceived bias of a topic that really meant something to them. That's why I think historically it's like victors write the history books and someone writes the history books, but is it true? Some of it, I'm sure. I hope so. Like how far back is a lie? Like, what part did they start lying? Because if they wrote a history book today, they'd be like, Trump's trying to kill women. Like, I watch MSNBC at a hotel, and they were like, Trump's killing women, and he's going to kill more women with abortions. And you're like, what? Like, they're trying to push this narrative that if people can't get abortions, they're just going to like die. Like, women are just like dropping dead. Like, it's not true. Whether you're pro-life or like, that's not really happening. But that's what they're saying is happening. What if those people get to write the history books? Someone's in the comments saying blah, 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 blah. Like, this is what I'm like having a conversation. A smart person would listen or click the X button. I'm not saying you have to listen to me. Here's what a dumb person does. Blah, 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 blah. Like that's just dumb. Like, why would you come to a show when you could literally, there's football games on, you could browse the internet, you could do anything. Why would you come in a chat and just yell blah, blah, blah? Like, either your IQ is like 15, you got dropped on your head, or you're just like a egotistical weirdo. Like, could you imagine if I went into like Tim Pool's podcast or Candace Owens or anybody's and just said blah, 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 blah. Like, you're just like, I'm stupid. Like, if I'm going to go in a podcast that I disagree with and I'm going to say something, I'm going to like state my point. Like, here's why I think you're wrong, Tim, or, like, not like blah, 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 blah. Okay. Where are you? It's like, you're making me think. I hate it. That's what people do when you bring up flat earth. It's like, I literally don't care. It's not a topic that I really care about at all. I just think it's so funny. Like, when someone brings it up and they're like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Like, have you ever researched it? No. When's the last time you thought about a globe? When I was 5. So why are you so mad? It's like your ego raging out of you, because people need to think that they know everything, and the smartest people learn. If a smart person and a dumb person have a conversation, the difference is a smart person in an hour will learn 5 things from the dumb person. The dumb person will learn 0 things from the smart person. This is what separates smart people. Obviously, there's like maybe some aspects that you can't control, but everybody, I think, does have the ability to take it to a higher level of whatever they're given. And, there's very high IQ people that are very egotistical, and they end up being the dumbest people. Like Sam Harris is a good example. Like, I doubt his IQ is like super low or anything. He's probably a high IQ individual, but he's so egotistical and so immoral that he's like dumber than a rock. I'd rather talk to a rock than Sam Harris. At least it won't annoy me, So it's like, it's not like I'm asking everyone, oh, just be really smart. If you're not, like, it's like, have self-awareness. The self-awareness can make somebody that knows nothing seem like a genius, and not having it makes a high IQ person seem like a moron. Like, it doesn't matter that you went to Berkeley or you voted for Obama. Like, you're an idiot if you don't even understand like basic common sense. And that's That's everything. So it's like, I see that in politics so much. People they're not evolving and adapting. And I understand that there's like more popular angles I can do, but these streams at this point are for sane people to feel sane, and also people that want to get smarter. Like if I watched 7 different Republican shows today, like if I watched Fox News and Tim Pool and Dan Bongino and whoever, honestly, the only one I'd want to watch today is Charlie Kirk, because he's talking about why he thinks MLK is a phony and everyone's getting mad. But that's like the only topic I've heard in a year that I'm even considering listening to Charlie Kirk talk about, because I want to hear what he says, because it's actually interesting and not stupid. But anyway, like if I listen to all these other shows, I'd literally get dumber. They literally all say the same thing over and over and over again. It's literally just like meatball Trump slop, where they're just and you just get like, I feel like the movement's getting dumber and dumber and dumber and dumber than it was even 4 years ago, because they're following people who just use like circular do nothing motions of like, they're not having these concepts about like self-awareness and how to gain knowledge. They're the type of people that they just close their ears and go blah, 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 blah. If you made a point, you're like, hey, why is inflation so bad? They're like, because of Biden. And it's like, does printing trillions of dollars make inflation go up? Yes. Would handing a $1,600 check to everybody make inflation happen? Yes. Trump did that. They'd go blah, 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 blah. So it's like, they're literally just like making everybody dumber. And that's why even 3 years ago, I'd say certain things and people would be like, oh yeah. And now I say, and people are like, blah, 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 blah. Cause like literally that's what's going on in their brain. You watch enough Tim Pool and Dan Bongino, it just goes blah, 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 blah. Like they're not saying anything intelligent. They're literally just like catching people in these like false paradigm circular WWE loops. I watched the clip of Tim Pool. Maybe I'll find it and post it right now. Should I try to upload it right now? It's Tim freaking out. Maybe I'll do another stream about it. He freaks out at Luke Rudowski, who I went on a show a couple weeks ago. Thanks for having me on, Luke, because I got kind of annoyed at him on Twitter. I was happily surprised that he still wanted me to come on the show. It was through my friend Clint. But anyway, I'll talk to anybody. I just don't want to go to the smelly beanie bunker and hang out with Tim Tool. But anyway, Luke was just being honest, and he's like, going over things that Trump did. And then Tim Pool had like a meltdown where he's just like, and he's like cursing. He's like, I'm sick of it. I'm sick of you talking about COVID. I don't want to hear about it. And it's like, is he a demon? Go watch that clip. I literally looked at that. I was like, Tim Pool is a demon. He looks like Diglett with a beanie on. He's a bald Diglett with a beanie. And I'm only making fun of him. This is the next thing I want to talk about. I almost forgot. Participation trophy culture. Everybody complains about it on the left. Oh, everyone gets a trophy. Listen, in a functional society, Tim Pool would be like on the liberal side of the kids who don't get to play basketball. He looks like Diglett with a beanie. He's a condescending prick, and he constantly surrounds himself by people that are less impressive than him, so he can treat them all like shit. Because any intelligent or like half of a man that sat next to Tim Pool, like R.A. the Rugged Man, would not let him talk to me that way. I don't care if Tim disagrees with me. You think I'm going to let that little bald Diglett looking beanie wearing, loser demon talk to me like that? Starts cursing in my face. Fuck you. It's like, dude, shut the Tim Pool needs a real man around, but he doesn't let real men around him. He has to hire a staff of people that are like afraid of him so he could treat them all like shit. He's a little beanie demon tyrant. You know what I'm saying? Like just the fact that he got that mad. Listen, I don't care if you like Trump or you hate Trump. Like, he literally spiraled at Luke saying the truth. Luke's like, well, Trump did do this, this, and this. And Tim's like, I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it. And you're like, dude, are you all right, bro? Like, how many demons are raging inside that little Diglett body of yours, Why would no man would ever let him talk to them like that. It's like, bro, you're not going to talk to me that way, But he surrounds himself by people that need what he has so he could talk to him that way. It's like he wants to be the ringleader of the Diglett circus. So he hires, a bunch of Diglets around him so nobody can outshine the master, He's like a little, what was the little rat's name in Master Splinter? Tim kind of looks like, anyway. But yeah, like, I don't know. I just saw that clip and I was like, dang, he got so mad at like the truth. That's the same. That's his content though. It's blah, blah, blah content. So then when the truth comes up or an intelligent conversation, he's like, blah, 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 blah. And it's like brain is spiraling. He's like, it's like, yo, crazy. Wild stuff. And then today he's on Twitter being like, oh, Vivek went too far with the Trump thing. Tim is, like Kanye said, Tim is literally an NPC, right? He says generic stuff about Vivek and Trump for a year and a half. He just says what everyone else says, has no intelligent thoughts of his own. Literally the day that Trump says Vivek went too far, then like Tim Pool's like, Vivek went too far. He literally saying that on his, and he's posting the Obama clip today, right after sucking off, not literally, but you know, and it's like, oh yeah, he went. Why did he go too far today? Because Trump said he went too far. People are like, well, you know, he wore a shirt. Guys, he's running for either he's running a fake campaign or a real campaign. If he's running a fake campaign, who cares? If he's running a real campaign, he's got to get votes. Like, what do you like? These people are so fake in this world. Like, he's been fake the whole time, and now they're like, it's gone too far now. Why? Like, either the whole campaign is a BS fake campaign where he's just kissing off Trump, or at a certain point, he's going to have to go off of the track of Trump if he wants to be himself. Like, basically, Vivek, he's played it right next to Trump the entire time, and he goes over an inch, and everyone's like, oh, he's separated. It's like, bro, if he really liked Trump and wanted Trump to win, he wouldn't run. He would drop out and endorse Trump. Like, what don't you understand about that? If Vivek was a Trump guy, he would drop out and say, vote for Trump. And if he run, like, I just don't get what people don't get. They're like, oh, Vivek's a patriot. He can't kiss Trump's ass forever. You want, like, he's been faking it just to please you guys for months now. And then he is like, I gotta, I guess do my own thing, or else I just, and then it's like, oh, that's too far. It's like, I don't understand what's going on. Like, people are so weird, and everyone just says whatever they're saying. Like, when it's like popular to say, it's like, it's a year and a half after COVID, and literally in 2021 or 2022, I forget what year it was, is over a year, 2 years after arguing with me for like 2 years, all the influencers came out. I have the screenshots that they all said it on the same exact day. It was like November 11th or something. And they're all like, you know what? Trump is really lying about COVID too much. I like DeSantis. And it's like, they all did it. They all said it. And then 3 months later, Trump gets arrested and they're back to kissing his ass. It's like, they're all like robots. You know what I'm saying? It's like, here's the narrative of the day. Here's what we all say in unison, so everyone thinks it's true. And it's like, whoa, why now? Like, they wait until they're told to say it. You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, if you're making a lot of money in this social circle, and Vivek is like kind of part of that social circle, it's not business worth it to say anything about him, because you're all grifting off that same cash cow. But the second that Trump, who's a bigger cash cow than Vivek, you know, Vivek is a bigger cash cow than DeSantis because his interviews get more views. And then, you know, Trump is like the ultimate cash cow. So it's like, you know, cash cow number one is now upset at cash cow number two and saying cash cow number two is fake. Now I, Tim Pool, am going to say that cash cow number two might be fake because cash cow number one told me to say. Like, this is what people are doing, you know? The whole DeSantis thing, it's like, I don't even care that much about DeSantis, but it's like, how many times you guys going to make the same joke? Oh, his boots. It's the approved MAGA joke to make about the guy that it doesn't. It's so stupid. Like, I laugh at the stuff now because it bothers me. I mean, if I don't laugh about it, it'll bother me, but it still bothers me, but I try to make a light of it. And, you know, just to wrap it up, then I'll read a few comments. I wasn't trying to be mean earlier, but I'm trying to inspire people, because I'm not asking, like, everyone doesn't have to sail the 7 seas. I'm not trying to make people feel bad where it's like, oh, I didn't do enough. It's like, I'm not asking you to be Christopher Columbus or Magellan or something. Like, not everyone has to do some extraordinary feat, but in general, it's like, do you care about yourself and your family more than you care about a pharmaceutical CEO's feelings and a guy who took $100 million from corporations and mega donors? Like, you know, which one do you care about more? If you don't care about your family and the truth and your country and yourself more than this stuff, you're going to get got. And that's what I'm trying to inspire people. When I say be a real man, I'm not asking everyone to start a freaking, 8-story business and buy a private, or 8-figure business and buy a private jet and make you feel inferior. I'm just trying, just be a man. Like, if Trump says my vaccine saved 100 million lives and is a great human achievement and I saved the world and, I did it, not Fauci. Can you be a man, or are you a cheerleader? If you're a cheerleader, you're a cheerleader. If you're a man, you're like, it's okay to be like, yo, that's crazy. And if every man came together and said, that's crazy, he would have had to have stopped doing it. But because everybody allows this whole slippery slope, now we're stuck with like a fake election, and I'm not saying it's fake because of the ballots. I'm saying it's fake because the most believable outsider that has the best rhetoric and has the only rhetoric that's outsider rhetoric is the pharmaceutical CEO. Vivek unquestionably has the best rhetoric. I'm not disagreeing with people. Best rhetoric, saying the realest stuff, talking about the vaccine liabilities, talking about this, has the best foreign policy in theory. Everything he's saying is better than Trump, Some things are not as good as DeSantis, because DeSantis is better on COVID stuff and more believable because he actually did something. But it's like his rhetoric's the best. So now you have, Trump, DeSantis, Nikki Haley, and the outsider is a hedge fund pharmaceutical CEO. Yeah, I'm the bad guy for this. I'm not looking down on every hedge fund manager, and I'm not looking down on every pharmaceutical CEO. But after 2020, the last person that would be an outsider would be a hedge fund pharmaceutical guy who was writing, was sharing George Soros op-eds a year ago, virtue signaling that he agreed with him about his open society policy and China being a huge threat. That's your outsider? The guy who donated to Hillary Clinton, who hired the swamp and pardoned a bunch of, foreign spies? That's your outsider? The guy who sold vaccines for the establishment harder than Bill Gates and still brags about it? That's your outsider? And DeSantis does a lot of good things, and I think hires better, but he's too gung-ho about passing laws for a foreign country. We don't need laws in America for a foreign country. You wouldn't pass it for our country. If you criticize this, you can't do this, you can't do that. It's like, bro, stop. The First Amendment will be fine, and you're not helping these people. It's only going to make them more unpopular, because when American patriots realize that your party is working for a foreign country, it's created more opposition than has ever happened. Same with all the wars. It's like people don't hate Ukraine because they're Ukrainophobes. Ukraine is like the center of Americans' foreign policy right now. And what if they passed a speech law that said, you can't criticize Ukraine or else you're a Ukrainophobe or Ukraine Semite. You can't criticize them. It's like, would that make it more popular? No, people aren't. And it's the same with Israel. The people aren't just like, oh, I hate them randomly. Or some people are, and some people are horrible, but for the most part, they get the most foreign aid. There's lobbyists that pass speech laws in America that basically say that you can't criticize them too far or more than other nations. It's these lopsided laws and foreign policy that has made a lot of people pay attention to it. It's not like people just took their binoculars and like, hey, let me pick that random country. It's because of their involvement and their tightness with America. And, most people have come to the conclusion that they're basically dictating America's foreign policy. We're like an attack dog for them. That's what a lot of people think. So you can't pass a speech law that says you can't say certain things. That's not going to stop people from thinking things. It's only making it worse. So, that's the guy that's probably the best in the race, in my view, DeSantis. He's too gung-ho about these speech laws for them. So if you can't even stand firm on the First Amendment, why should I care about your campaign? I like that Thomas Massie likes DeSantis. Thomas Massie is good on this topic, and he says that DeSantis had his back during COVID. So, if I'm probably not going to vote for anybody, but if I do, maybe DeSantis, but I just don't like his foreign policy, and I don't like how he's subservient to a foreign country. So it doesn't inspire me to go to the ballot box for him. If he didn't do that, I would go vote for him tomorrow or whenever the election is. But because he does that, it's like, nah, whatever. One of these puppets going to win. People are going to fight over him. They're going to act like children. They're going to cry. They're going to play the victim. It's like, who cares? And I'm not apathetic and I'm not pessimistic. I'm just facing the situation, and I'm not putting my faith or stake in people that clearly don't care about me. If you put your godlike faith into a hedge fund pharmaceutical CEO that wasn't really doing that much during the, you think that's optimistic? I don't, I can't relate. Let me see. Someone said, bro, who's covered Vivek the most extensively? There's a few, TikToks and reels of like this one guy did a breakdown of a few of his companies. There's a few people who've really like looked into it and talked about it, but the thing is that his campaign is so slippery. It's hard to really tell, like, if he's telling the truth or not. Because at the end of the day, it's like he'll claim that the largest IPO in biotech history, that was this Alzheimer's drug that he bought from GlaxoSmithKline, that he went on mad money and talked about and whatever, and it went from like near $200 or $180 and it crashed to like 50 cents or whatever. He'll claim that no one lost money and, like he didn't make any money. Like that's what he'll claim in interviews, and everyone will be like, see? And it's like, guys, there's no way that you can do all of that stuff and not use it to your advantage. He had like 10 or 15 companies. So it's like, that one fails, you throw that one out, you cash out on that. Like he's just like a master, like chameleon. It's like people will buy the fact that he did all that and made no money off it. Even if he didn't make money directly, which I find hard to believe, he made money through spinning it out into other companies, creating connections, doing this and that. He's all over the place. So it's like, people are just stupid. Like they'll believe everything he says. And it's the same. I want to try to find real quick, because there's a huge viral video now about it. Hold on, Vivek. I'm going to see nano or lipid particles or something. And his campaign manager, who's a nice lady, but, she responded to this thing and basically, let me see. She's like, we didn't do that. We're suing Moderna. It's like, well, why are you like, to someone dumb that just likes him, they're like, oh, wow, that proves that he's not in on it, that he's suing Moderna. And it's like, or you're trying to profit off of the technology of the vaccines. That doesn't mean you're not in on it. That means you're in on it. I mean, but the dumb thing is, we shouldn't even have to talk about this. Of course, he was a pharmaceutical CEO. Of course, he was trying to cash out on the pandemic. Why wouldn't he? But like people were like, no, he's like, it's a joke. Here it is. All right. I'll read the response real quick because yeah. All right. So here's the video. I'm not going to play it, but someone wrote, did Dr. David Martin just end Vivek Ramaswamy's presidential campaign? Vivek's company invested $116 million in nanoparticle delivery systems in 2017. Also, according to Dr. Martin, Vivek, has not so publicly disclosed interest in every shot that was delivered. What do you have to say about this, Vivek? And his campaign manager wrote back, another desperate swipe at Vivek. Vivek's company never made vaccines. The company that Vivek invested in is suing Moderna for stealing technology and lying about it. Tucker spoke about it on air in March. So that's her spin, is like, oh, Vivek never made vaccines. He just invested in a company that's suing Moderna for stealing technology. So like Moderna sued Pfizer. Why was Moderna suing Pfizer? It's because, Pfizer made mRNA vaccines. Moderna patented the technology, I believe, around 2013. And Moderna, which is joint owned by the government, wants all the Pfizer money. So they're taking credit for the technology that they use to make the vaccines. Moderna doesn't have any other products besides the mRNA vaccine. It's a company that was literally built around mRNA products. So for her admitting that the company that Vivek invested in, is suing Moderna for stealing their technology, proves that all of the money that Moderna is trying to make off of Pfizer from their stuff is the money that the company he invested in, is trying to get. So they're trying to get the money off the technology that created the vaccines. It is what it is. It's just, I don't want a pharmaceutical person to be the head of the Republican Party after 2020. I was early on this stuff because it's all over the place. And you go on 19 out of 20 conservative podcasts, they don't ask a damn question about it. Just like they don't ask Trump any questions. I'm not being a dick, but I personally am not looking for a hedge fund manager to lead me in politics. And I'm not looking for a pharmaceutical CEO to lead me in politics. And if he's really good at speaking, and there's videos of him hyping up a drug that ended up failing on Mad Money, which is like the most popular, you get what he's like rebranded himself 10 times. He's like a professional chameleon. I'm this, I'm this, I'm this, I'm this. It's a democracy. It's a this, it's a that, it's a this. It's fine. I hope he is who he says he is, but to me, he just seems like he just seems like a chameleon. Like I've known people like him where they just, they rebrand themselves every 2 years and they're just a totally different person. And to me, it doesn't reek of authenticity. The way he talks, the way his facial, like it doesn't, Like, he says all the right things. He's highly intelligent. He's well-spoken. He's articulate. All of these things he's good at, but there's something called authenticity that I've just never felt from him. Is he articulate? Yes. Is he well-spoken? Yes. Is he good at debating? Yes. Is he good at public speeches? Sure. But like, it's just never connected with me, because if I'm talking to you like this, and this is really how I feel, and if I'm talking to you like this, and this is really how I feel, like, that doesn't sit well with me. That's like my internal radar is like, that's right. You get what I'm saying? I talk, even when I'm, sometimes you have to talk a certain way when you're going over like really difficult stuff, or you have to prepare. Like, it's not always possible to like sound as authentic as possible, but he never sounds authentic to me. I don't think I've ever heard him say one thing that's not like, you get what I'm saying? He talks like this and makes the messages like that. Like, he talks like a politician. And there's videos of him in high school as a valedictorian talking like a politician. Like, he's a kid who dressed up in a suit and was trying to be a politician when he was younger. Like, it's fine. I'm not mad at the guy, but it's like, I've never, even when I heard his videos before people knew about him, they're like, check this guy out. And I'm always like, yeah, I don't trust him because of how he talks. It's not like, oh, I don't like his accent, or I don't like it's not normal. He's not talking like someone, he's talking like a robot. You know what I'm saying? And his whole campaign is like data scraping. It's like he just sucks in the data of what everybody's saying in the conservative movement and then just spits it out like ChatGPT. Like, that's, which is a genius thing to do. It's like, it's like professional sales. Like, how do you make a sale on this product? You're buddy with people. You act like they're their best friend. You make the sale, you disappear. Like, I've seen this happen 1,000 times. I hope he does what he says he is. I hope he has a bright career, but it's like, why would I trust a hedge manager turned pharmaceutical CEO who constantly lies? Every time you bring this stuff up, he just backtracks. Like, if he literally said to me and said, hey, Anomaly, I wrote a chapter, because this is the truth. Okay. I've read the entire chapter because I watched him debate DC Drano and Candace, and he said, did you read the chapter? And they said no. So then he slithered away. So I read the whole chapter before he came on my show. And he said the same thing to me. Did you read the full chapter where I talked about Trump and Stacey Abrams? Yes, I did. Probably not what he wanted to hear. He said, it's satire. That's what he told Candace's audience. It's satire. If you listen to Candace's show, because they didn't correct him, he said, that was satire. I didn't, Trump, Stacey Abrams, the election, I'm being satirical. So the audience listens to it. He slithers away and they say, oh, he never wrote that. This is what makes him like a high IQ con artist. It's okay that he wrote that. Like, it's okay that he shifted his opinion. It doesn't mean you have to trust him, but like, that's what happened. But if you read the chapter, it isn't what he says it is. Like, he's just a master slitherer. He can't just say, I wrote a chapter in 2022 about how Trump was a sore loser, just like Stacey Abrams, and the election fraud wasn't real, and Mike Pence was a respectable guy. And I thought that at the time. And now, I've changed my mind and I feel like that's not true. If he said that straight out, I'd be like, I still wouldn't trust him, but I'd be like, all right, that's a decent answer, I guess. He doesn't do that. He tries to gaslight the audience because he knows that most people won't read the chapter into thinking he never said that. But then he'll play both sides of it. He'll be like, oh, I changed it a little bit, but I also never wrote. No, you did write that. He's a master chameleon. He knows people won't figure this stuff out. So when you talk about any of his pharmaceutical stuff, he'll just be like, that never happened. That never happened. And people believe him. It's like, but it did happen though. Not everything everyone's saying on the internet didn't happen, but you're telling me that you launched the largest biotech IPO in modern history. You went all around the media saying how great it was, and you thought it was going to work. You tried to sell in the audience of the biggest financial show with Mad Money, whatever that like little pimple's name is. What's his name? Jim Cramer. You went on there to hawk your thing and tell people why you thought it was going to succeed. It didn't succeed. It crashed like from 180 or something into like 50 cents. And you're going to get on my show and other people's show and be like, oh, I made no money off it. Nobody lost money off it. That was nothing for me. That was nothing. Bullshit, bro. Bull freaking shit. He's lying. Oh, you didn't at least spin that off into other companies that made money? You got $1 billion, but that had nothing to do with it? Give me like, are people this stupid? And then another one of the lies was the Soros scholarship, which I don't even care that much about. I know it was the brother, the silent Soros, as they call him. But in general, he goes on multiple shows and he said, I didn't have the money at the time. I was broke. Would you turn down? It's not true. They did reports because he's doing campaign finance stuff. He was making millions of dollars for years when he took that scholarship, years prior, and the year of that thing. If he said it's free money, I'm going to take the money. I didn't know who Soros was. I didn't think much of it. I just took the free money. That's an acceptable excuse. Lying and saying you were broke when you had the money for it, he's just showing people how slithery he is. He'll say anything. He's not honest. He's just a master liar. He's a master con artist. Someone said to me, either he's really who he says he is, or he's just a really good con artist. It's like, he's a really good con artist, which is fine. He'll do well in politics because that's what the arena is. But it's like, it's not my responsibility to just be stupid when people can't figure this stuff out. Someone said, if I had millions, I would take the money I earned. He earned it by competition. Then say that. What don't you understand about this? See, it's people like you that are enablers, which is why we're run by liars and psychopaths. Because I'm not saying it's not okay to take money from competition, but if you lie about it and people like you make excuses for the lie, he didn't say that. He said, I was broke. Go find, there's multiple clips of him saying, I was broke, I needed the money. I was poor, I needed the money. He's lying about that. But people like you are such little dweebs, you just make excuses for him. And then that's why the scams keep happening. Oh, Trump scammed us. Oh, we got a bunch of loser beta male men in the Republican Party who make excuses for it. Oh, Trump printed more money than Obama. We have a bunch of beta men losers that make excuses for it. This is what the party is. We got a bunch of, it's not like we're a victim to all this stuff. A bunch of losers in this movement, a bunch of beta male fake alpha men who literally care to defend somebody who clearly lied more than they want to defend their own country and their family. Like, it's like you offended their grandma when you talk about a billionaire pharmaceutical guy who literally lied. Like, he literally lied. It's not even debatable. Like, he said he didn't have the money and everyone knows that he's lying. But here's the thing. No one calls him out on it. So he just slithers away to the next thing. I don't care that he was rich. I don't care if he was broke, but he wasn't broke. And he said he was broke. If you're going to lie about that, what else are you going to lie about? Everything, whatever. It's just like this is and I'm not going to be like emo about this, but this is where I'm considering like eventually just changing professions, because sometimes it's the people you help the most that hate you the most. And sometimes it's the people closest to you who do more damage than your worst enemy. So it's like, I know there's a lot of people who get it. I know I've been blessed gratefully. I know there's more people who like it. I understand all this, so I'm not trying to be emo and complain. I'm very grateful. I've been, I've gotten so much great stuff out of this, met so many great people. But at the end of the day, it's like, if MAGA and the Republican movement is this fake and pathetic, why am I going to just try to tell the truth to them when they hate me for it? Like, if I point out the pharmaceutical scams, they hate it. When I point out the fact that Trump sold them out, they hate it. When I point out the fact that Trump hired the swamp, they hate it. When I point out the fact that Trump is not a victim to some Fauci scheme, Trump was in on it the whole time. And if you actually just stop making up QAnon fantasies and actually trace the money he took and the people he hired and the executive orders he passed for Bill Gates, you could find out that Trump is not a victim to this COVID thing that came out of nowhere. Trump is half the reason that a lot of this pharmaceutical stuff got through, because he was in on it since the time he got into office. And if you tell people that, they hate you for it. So the elites think that you're cattle, and I think that you're humans. But if you act like sheep, what's the point of me telling you this stuff when you're going to hate me for it? And you guys will be more nasty to me than even the left-wing media will be for trying to tell you the truth. So it's like, go fail. I don't even care who wins the election anymore, because our party is run by a bunch of scammers and psychopaths, and a bunch of people just sit around and gatekeep their own demise. It's like the Titanic's sinking, and if you try to fill the hole, people get mad at you. So it's like, whatever. I don't even care anymore. I'm considering doing other stuff, because it's like, why am I going to keep putting all my stuff on the line for a bunch of ungrateful people who don't even care? And I know that there's great people, and I know that a lot of people get it, but it's like, some of the MAGA cult, they're some of the nastiest, fakest people out there. They're just as fake and stupid as liberals. They're just as dishonest. They're just as wicked. Tim Pool is like a literal demon, and people look up to him in this movement. He's a horrible person. That's why he surrounds himself by inferior people, or people that he perceives inferior, because he has to bolt himself up. Anybody that respected themselves would not, and anybody that would stand up for themselves would not be allowed to work around him, because he's a piece of shit who talks to everybody horribly. So he surrounds himself by people that he perceives as weaker than him, so he can just be a dickhead and a tyrant, and then lash out at them and scream hysterically at them to their face when they bring up valid points. How dare you bring up the pharma scams? It's like, shut up, dude. You look like Diglett with a beanie on. Someone said, dude, move on, anomaly, good grief. No, I mean, watch a different channel, bro. I'm literally not begging for your attention. I don't care who listens. Like, this clearly is not for everybody. And I don't care anymore. Honestly, like, I like having conversations. I like making content, but really it's like, I'll bust my ass on a video that took me like 5 hours to kind of like point out the truth of what's going on, like objectively, like, accurate reporting, and people get mad at it. You got like low IQ, like pinheads just like screaming at me. I'm just being realistic. I know how human nature works. It's going to be people on my own side that hate me more than the other side or the perceived enemy. Like, I'm not sticking around a giant Fed trap. And that's what the Trump movement is. It's a giant Fed trap. That's why everyone got Fed trapped at January 6th, because Trump is the top Fed. He was literally the head of the federal government. He pardoned foreign spies. He set his own supporters up, and then he ran around and grifted off it and made a fortune off of his own people rotting in jail, who he never pardoned because he doesn't give a shit about you. He doesn't care if you rot in prison. Drop a rap album and have some clout in Black America, then maybe he'll pardon you. Or maybe if you were a foreign spy for the country that controls politics, but you can't say controls politics because they'll say it's hate speech. He doesn't give a shit about you. But if you guys want to run around and act like a bunch of sheep for this guy, like, I don't care anymore. Seriously, it's like, I don't want to be a part of it. I don't want to be near these people. Like, these are the people that are going to get so mad at you. They're nasty. They're wicked. They lie about everything now. Like, nothing matters. It's like Trump will literally just make shit up and say, Florida, it doesn't matter who wins in Florida because the warm weather makes the politics good. It's like the lowest IQ, fakest, stupidest, dumbest thing I've ever heard. And nobody even talks about it. It's okay because he said it about DeSantis, even though it's factually not true. Just let him lie. He's old now. He doesn't even sound like he used to. He looks miserable every time he speaks. He's like sweating. He's old as shit. He sounds like a demon, but people just keep cheering. It's like, I call the election, I've coined a new term. I call it a cattle battle, because the elites who run the country, they literally, like, I'm not joking, they literally think you're cattle. I'm not saying like, oh, they think like you act like, no, they think you're cattle. Like the way you look at, like animals, that's how they look at you, literally. So because nobody can figure this stuff out, I call the election the cattle battle, because it's just a bunch of people fighting over people that don't care about them and acting like animals. So it's like, that's what the election is. Like, who are you going to vote for in this year's cattle battle? Are you going to vote for Epstein's friend or Epstein's friend? Are you going to vote for the hedge fund manager or, the billionaire who used to donate to Hillary Clinton? Are you going to vote for the guy who worked under Obama or the guy who printed more money than Obama? Are you going to vote for Trump, who passed an executive order for infringing on the First Amendment, or DeSantis, who passed a bill infringing on the First Amendment? It's like, it's a cattle battle. So I don't care about the cattle battle. If Vivek wins by 40 points, I would be shocked. I don't care. Trump's going to win by 30 points, and I don't care. If DeSantis wins, I don't care, because nothing's going to change, because people can't figure this stuff out. So why keep trying to wake people up when the people that you're trying to help the most literally hate you for it? What's the point? At least people like my cattle battle term. Grandpa Moderna, coined by Anomaly. Cattle battle, coined by Anomaly. Chat GPT, that was mine. Chris Christie and DC Drano stole it. Right-wing Obama, I don't know if I made that one up. Someone might have said it before me, but I was pretty early. Anyway, someone said cattle battle is brilliant. It's like, at the end of the day, people can't play the victim if they act that way. Like, I would never, like, I'm not an evil person. So I would never like try to hurt people or do like weird stuff and like change your kids' genders and stuff. Like, that's crazy. But in general, it's like, the world is not nice. And it's your responsibility as an American, as a man, as a family member, whatever, to stand up for your family and tell the truth. But if you're so fake and weak that you lie to yourself and you get mad at the truth, you're not a victim. You're not a victim to George Soros or the deep state or the left or the rhinos. Like, you're in on it just as much as Trump's in on it. Trump's not a victim. He hired them and did everything they said. Trump's in on it, and you're in on it if you can't admit it. And people don't want to admit it because they panic and say, well, what now? Well, what now? It's too late to change the candidates because you guys lied your ass off for 3 years and allowed the debate to be this. You know what I'm saying? You allowed him to skip the debates, and it's like, now what? I don't know. You guys screwed up. Like, it's like San Francisco saying, now what? I don't know. Your city sucks now. It's going to be a long road back to normality, but it's possible. It's the same with this. Like, you could pick up the crumbs of everything you guys screwed up, but right now it's going to be a cattle battle. And you can pick your favorite guy who doesn't care that much about you, but we're not the victims. People got to like figure this stuff out. It's so simple. The easiest analogy, which is not even an analogy because it happened, it's like how many people got the vaccine? probably like 70, 80% of people. How many people wanted to get the vaccine? Probably under 50% of people. So why? Well, because I get it, but it's like, united we stand, divided we fall. If you can't unite under strength, you fall. Weak people get conquered. I'm at the point now, I'm American, I'm Christian, I'm mostly Caucasian. I don't want to see America fall to pieces. Like, it's not like I have, I'm not like waving a Nigerian flag and I have family there. Like, this is all I know. My family came from Poland, Italy, Puerto Rico, and Czechoslovakia. And to be quite frank, I'm not trying to go back. I know that Puerto Rico is part of America, but I'm not trying to move there unless I'm trying to get a tax break and I make a lot of money one day like Jake Paul. But in general, I want to stay here. I like this country. I don't want this country to fall apart. But at this rate, if it does fall apart, I get it, and it's not just the left. The right is fake opposition and they're proud of it. They don't give a crap. They don't want to fix it. They just want to role play and cosplay and follow a bunch of scammers and get mad when I talk about it. So I think it's going to fall apart. And it's like, there's places in Utah or Idaho you can move. And as the whole country's falling apart, you might not even notice a change. So it's like, just like, the Roman Empire used to be huge. Now it's not. Greece used to have a lot of power. Now they don't. Like, that's human nature. Weak people lose. So we're going to lose, and I'm not like pessimistic about it. It's like, I'll just move somewhere rural and, turn off my cell phone if I make enough money and forget about it. It's like, I'm not going to cry over it. It's like, it is what it is. But, if conservatives and MAGA and America and all these people, if you want to save a lot of parts of this country, you got to act like it. If you're just along for the ride, then it's like, I see the writing on the wall. I hope Republicans win and build a wall and deport people, but I don't see it. I really do. I'm bad at predicting elections. I'm better at predicting things because elections I'm not going to say they're fake, but like, it's a cattle battle. And then like, what's going to happen happens anyway. So it's like, if Trump passes an executive order for the pharmaceutical industry, I'm not a prophet. I'm just reading things. I'm not like a fan. That's the difference. And I'm telling you these things not to brag. I'm telling you these things so people do it and stop following idiots, right? I don't even care if people never listen to me again. Listen to what I'm going to say. There's a reason I was 2 years ahead of Tim Pool on the vaccines. There's a reason I was 2 years ahead of people on the mandates. There's a reason that my reporting shit on everybody else in the conservative movement, because I'm actually trying. You get what I'm saying? Nobody's perfect, but I'm trying to be good. They're not trying. And I know people don't want to realize that. They're trying to make money. They're trying to hang out with Trump. They're trying to go to Mar-a-Lago. I'm trying to be accurate. I'm trying to help the country. My accuracy is not 100%, but it's pretty damn close. And they're wrong about every major topic that matters because they're not fucking trying. I'm just being honest. It's like, I knew this was happening because I read the legislation. They didn't know it's happening because they're just trying to hang out at Mar-a-Lago and give you like WWE Kardashian plots about people they like, and they're ignoring what's going on. If I took $50 million, this is just an example. If I took $50 million from Pfizer and then tomorrow I come on and I say, hey, Travis Kelce's a cool guy, get your vaccines. I took the money and then I sold out and then I did what Pfizer told me to do. It's not rocket science. If you could connect those dots, that's what happened. I don't care how much you used to like me. I don't care if you like my music or you hate my music or you like my podcast, or you think I look good in my Utah selfie or whatever. I don't care. That's the truth. It's the same with Trump. All that information is all there for everyone to see. They just don't want to show you, so they're always acting stupid. It's like controlled opposition cattle circus. Like, they're not trying. There's a reason I was ahead. I'm trying. So even if you hate me and never listen to me again, realize this, or else you're always going to be stuck there. It's never going to change. Someone said people don't think it's bad because they have low standards, and it all roots from self-awareness. If you don't tell the truth to yourself, you're not going to seek the truth in others. It comes down to that. And both sides are egotistical. The left and the right are very similar. I mean, they're opposing views, but they're both egotistical. The same like scrawny white guy who's like, I hate Republicans. It's the same ego problem that the right winger says that watches Dan Bongino and hates liberals. It's the truth. They have the same ego problem, and that's why they can't see the truth, because they're ego battling. It's a cattle battle of their egos. So they're like, I'm team red, I'm team blue. You're wrong about this. You're wrong about this. And then they just fight hysterically, and they never want to admit that they got duped. Like, trying to tell somebody who hates Trump from a liberal perspective is the hardest thing in the world. They don't care. Like, they don't care if they're wrong. They don't care if Rachel Maddow's lying. They don't care if certain Republican talking points are right. They don't care about immigration. Like, they're so emotionally wrapped up in hating Trump and Republicans that they literally, like, they don't think straight anymore. And here's the problem. We're not this great movement that's worth even coming to. So it's like, if we were, and it's like, oh, come over here. Why should they come over here? So they could go to TPUSA and listen to Mike Lindell and Carrie Lake scream on a stage, and people worship a pharmaceutical hedge fund guy with no scrutiny. Like, we are not a movement worth coming to. So it's like, I disagree with the left on almost everything. And I think it's insane how they're acting, but it's not like, come over here to the truth. This isn't the truth. Trump's not the truth. Republican Party's not the truth. Like, they're not. And if you admitted that, then we'd create a movement worth building, and probably we could get enough votes. You might still, because Biden sucks, but you get what I'm saying? It's like, we're not, like, I would not recommend anybody go to whatever the hell's going on, because then you're just going to be brainwashed in a different, like, loop, you know? So it's the same ego and lack of self-awareness in both sides, and they just fight all the time, but they're both the same annoying hypocrite idiot that they hate in the other side. They hate themselves. It's like Colin Kaepernick, you know, I hate to bring this up again, but not really. Good quarterback, you know what I'm saying? Great athlete. I'm sure he's a nice guy. But Colin Kaepernick, his whole racial activism is hating himself. Like, it's like he's half white, was rescued by white people, raised by them. You know, they helped him use his physical talent to become a professional athlete as great parents. And now his entire activism is, I'm going to do stuff that if a white guy did, I would call it racist. So take everything Colin Kaepernick says and does for black people and let a white guy do it for white guys. And Colin Kaepernick would hate that guy. He hates himself. You get what I'm saying? Like, if you're a black activist and you do all this stuff for black people, and you're like, you know what, if white people do that, that's fine. I think we should both be able to do it. Then you don't hate yourself. You know what I'm saying? But if you hate everything you do in another race, then you're a fake, you know? And that's what most racial activists are. They do things that they don't want others to do, you know, whether it's Jewish organizations or black organizations. Like, I don't care what you're doing, but if a white organization did it, or like, you wouldn't feel the same. So it's like, you know, at least have the, like, you know, the honesty to be like, all right, well, if I'm gonna do this, I understand that other people are gonna want to get in groups and do racial things too. For like, what's it called? When black people do things that they think betters their ethnic group as a whole, even though there's a lot of different black types, they still put it under black, right? And they can do that. Okay. And if they do it, it's called activism. And if you disagree with it, it's called racism. If Jewish people come together and do things for the best interest of their ethnicity or their religion, it's called activism. And if you even notice it, you don't even have to disagree. If you even notice that they're doing it, it's called anti-Semitism. If a group of white people comes together and does something for their race, it's called racist and white supremacy. And, you know, you literally have to disavow it immediately. So it's like, that's just what's going on. It's like, I don't care what people do, but it's all just hypocrisy. It's like certain groups can do whatever they want and you can't talk about it or notice. In other groups, you literally have to hate yourself and work for other groups, or else everybody calls you a bunch of names. Like, that's the dynamic of the situation. But with politics, it's like, both sides are hypocrites. Both sides have double standards. Both sides are fake, and both sides lack the self-awareness to call it out in their side. So it keeps happening. So the lesser of two evils keeps getting more and more evil and more stupid. And now we're going to have an election between, well, let's see real quick. I assume Trump is going to just crush in the Iowa caucus. I would be shocked if DeSantis did well, but maybe he will. They claim he's going to do well. Let me see. Iowa caucus results. They're not in yet. 545. I would assume that Trump is going to win by a lot. Ron DeSantis is going to not get that many votes, but a decent amount. Nikki Haley is going to get more than people think, and Vivek is going to get less than people think. That's my official prediction. By the way, I'm not taking any pride in this, even if I get it right, because I get elections wrong all the time because I'm not good at predicting them. But I'm better at like, oh, that's going to happen in a year, not like that person's going to win. It's like, it doesn't matter which guy wins because it happens anyway. Like, even though Trump won, the lockdown happened. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, the outsider won. Now they're not going to be able to lock down America. Well, they did. So it's like the politician doesn't matter. But anyway, my official guess, even though I don't care that much, Trump's going to win by at least 20 points. DeSantis and Nikki Haley are going to come in second and third. I could see Nikki Haley beating him somehow. But I'll say, just for the record, Trump in a massive lead, number one. DeSantis in second place with a decent amount, but not that many. Nikki Haley close to DeSantis, but losing to him. And then Vivek does way worse than people think. Because maybe I'm wrong, but I think that the internet does not necessarily translate to reality in elections as much as maybe we would hope that it would. You know, it matters, but I don't think like internet fame is as big as people think that it is when it comes to elections. It never seems to translate that way. You know, like, oh, people think like, oh my gosh, that guy's has a big YouTube channel. Like this guy, Meet Kevin, ran as a governor or something. He got like no votes, you know? I could see Vivek getting under, I think Vivek's going to get under 10%, maybe under 5%. Trump's going to get the most, and Nikki Haley and DeSantis are going to be close. Official prediction. But someone said, you think they're going to let Trump play their game? Come on, bro. He will get a thug life tattoo before he makes it back to the White House. Oh, this is one thing I wanted to talk about real quick. I almost forgot. The agent of chaos theory with Trump, like me, people like, I had Dr. Shiva on 2 years ago. You guys know Dr. Shiva. We talked in 2020, and there was this clip that I helped go viral because it was on my show, so I chopped it up and put it on Facebook. And I love talking to Shiva. Shiva, high energy, wild boy, unfiltered, says what he really thinks, not what people want him to say. I love talking to Shiva. But anyway, he said at the time, and I felt the same, you know, Trump he's a system breaker, right? He didn't call him an agent of chaos, but he called him like, Shiva said, I'm a systems guy, and Trump is breaking the system. And I like that, right? He's an agent of chaos for them. Like, oh, he's messing up the deep state and messing up the swamp and messing up the Democrats and the Republicans. Now I have a new theory where I'm like, he is that, but what if he's that for us? Like, there was a movement growing of like Ron Paul and, you know, the Tea Party and the Liberty Movement and libertarians mixed with conservatives and people who'd had enough. And you know what I'm saying? People that realized that both parties were corrupt. I think they called it the Tea Party movement. And then you had like the conspiracy movement that was always going to grow because not all conspiracies are fake. A lot of them, there's a reason people think them because something's going on. So like all of these things were gonna lead to something, right? Like they were never going to be able to lie as much as they did before with the internet. Like there was going to be some sort of awakening. It had to happen. So Trump kind of sucked up all the movements. He sucked up Ron Paul's movement. He sucked up Alex Jones's movement, and Alex just shovels people to him. He sucked all these things up, but then he didn't actually do anything. And now he's an agent of chaos, but it's like the election, the ballots, I'm arrested. I wouldn't be shocked if Trump's in on it and he's literally just controlled demolitioning, not the elites, but us. Like everything we all thought, because even Shiva, like he agrees with me now. Like me and Shiva used to think like, oh, Trump's beating up the system. But now we're both like, no, he is the system. He's totally lying. Like, because me and Shiva are smart and honest. And I'm not saying we're perfect. And, you know, we disagree. Like, I'm sure me and Shiva disagree on some stuff. And I don't listen to everything he says. I'm not going to lie. But in general, it's like we both and other people have come to the same conclusion where it's like, all right, he's not really challenging that like we thought he was. But so what is he an agent of chaos of? He's an agent of, like, he's ensuring that nobody better than him can ever rise. It doesn't, and I don't even trust Vivek, but it's like Vivek is saying all these things. He's just keeping them down, you know, but aimlessly. Okay, DeSantis did a better job leading over Trump over the last couple of years. Keep him down. Like, he's just, and then just making it so crazy that like nothing can ever like function and no one can like think straight. No one can like, all right, well, this guy's better. And like, all right, let's keep this guy accountable, even though he's a little sneaky, but put him here. It's like, he's an agent of chaos for our movement. I think they're running a controlled demolition on Republicans because I know this isn't popular and I know you're like not allowed to say this or whatever. But demographics will probably shift American politics forever. And Republicans and conservatives are going to have a way harder time winning in 10 years than they win now. I just go by the math. I don't care what they call me, but I'm not a hateful person. I just study analytics and like I notice patterns. I know I'm a pattern noticer. That's like the worst thing you could do. Although that makes you a good chess player, like anything in life. But anyway, after this election, it's going to be hard to win an election. If Trump botches this election, which I think he probably will or has or can, we're screwed, So I don't think he's an agent of chaos for the elites anymore. I think he's an agent of chaos for us, and he's just like screwing everything up. So there's like a pile of dust and nobody can put it back together for the next like 5 years. And if people can't put this together in the next 5 years, you're done possibly forever. Like I don't, I'm not trying to be a doomer and a gloomer, but it's so weird to me realizing how little self-awareness people have on the right and how they don't realize that they're becoming a parody of what Democrats thought we were. Like I spent the last 6 years being like, we're not this, right? Republicans are not this. Conservatives are not this. Middle America's not this. Trump's not this. And honestly, I still agree with most of it. Most people who like Trump are good people. I just think they're getting tricked, but whatever. But now everybody's turning into a parody of what the left said we were, and the left is turning into a parody of what we're saying they are. And it's like, it's just like our country's kind of just like, we're both screwing up. But in general, if you look at all the things that people complain about with Joe Biden, they're running the only candidate who could probably lose to Joe Biden. It's like Joe Biden's old. Joe Biden sucks. His economy's bad. And he's kind of just like a goofy leader who doesn't, he's just like very unpopular because there's not that much to like about Joe Biden. Let's go through all the things that he does that people make fun of, and we'll show you how Trump does all the same things and nobody has the self-awareness to call it out. So it's like a lot of people don't believe you the same way like a Kerry Lake fan believes you. It's like, okay, Biden's really old. He's too old to run. He's 81. He's losing it. He's a shell of who he once was. It's all true. But so is Trump. Trump is a shell of who he was 4 years ago. Trump is super old, and he doesn't look or sound the same than he did 4 years ago. Go to his Twitter. Look at his old tweets about how he talked about planes and technology. Trump was smart. I'm not saying he was always a dumbass or anything. He used to say things that made me like him. He wasn't just like blah, 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 blah. That's what the left said he was. Trump actually used to tweet and say a lot of like intelligent stuff about a lot of different topics. He hasn't said any of that in 4 years. He literally just like repeats Trump slop in a loop. He's not the same guy he was. He's either older or faker or something's going on. So it's like, how are you going to beat an election against an old guy with an old guy? Now that narrative only makes sense to MAGA. It's like Trump's too old. Biden's too old. It's like Trump's also old. So it's like you might get some people who think that Biden's too old and Trump has it together, but you're running another old guy who is clearly also 15 steps behind where he was 4 years ago. And everybody's been covering for him and he's been avoiding debates and interviews for that reason. He's not who he once was. So like if you find him in a debate or an interview where somebody's actually challenging him with right-wing talking points, he looks terrible, but everybody's trying to act like he doesn't, the same way the left acts like Biden is great. So it's like, it's going to be exposed eventually and it's not going to be pretty. Also, you have like Joe Biden eats ice cream all the time, right? And people are like, oh, he's eating ice cream. It's cool. It's like, it's not cool. It's like anyone can eat ice cream. It's like, oh, look, he's just like you kids. Like what? He's eating Trump does the same thing with the pizza. He hands out pizza all the time, and all these Republican dick rider accounts lose their mind. They're like, holy crap, he's handing out pizza to first responders. First of all, it's a photo op. He's going there with a pizza in his hand. They set up the camera. He hands it. They smile, and they turn the camera off. It's a photo op. It doesn't mean anything. And then also, pizza is like one of the cheapest things you could give somebody. It's like, I'm a grown man. Make me some steaks if you really care about me. You got 20 first responders, cook the guy some steaks. And you don't have to get ribeye. You don't have to get the most expensive stuff. Go to any store and get any steak, and you could spend $100 or $200 or $300 and cook the whole fire department steaks or whoever getting them pizza. What is it? A Chuck E. Cheese? Like you go, wow. Like that's what, if you're a real, like, if you're a good friend, you're like, yo, help me move and I'll buy you like a good dinner. I'll buy you a steak dinner. I'll like, help me move and I'll give you some money. If you're like a cheapo, you're like, help me move and I'll give you some pizza. It's like, bro, I could order my own pizza if I want for $17. Like, Pizza Hut will deliver one to my door for $10. Like, you're not blowing my, like, it's the cheapest thing you could give somebody. It's like, here, how do we feed 30 kids for $40? Buy 4 pizza pies. I'm not anti-pizza. I'm part Italian. I'm just saying in general, it's like, it's not like the nicest thing you could get somebody. If someone was like, Anomaly's coming, let's give them some pizza. Like, do you think I'm going to be as excited about that as I would a steak? Like, yo, we're going to cook some steaks and potatoes for the first responders. It's like, Yeah, that would be nice. Like real men, like first responders, they like steaks and they like real food. You know what I'm saying? Maybe like a pasta dish or something, not like pizza. That's just like, I don't care about you. What's the cheapest thing I could possibly find for a photo op? Someone said he gets it for free. Guys, they're raising hundreds of millions of dollars. They can't spend $200 on steaks for some first responders. They don't give a shit about you. It's just like the people that risked their lives, died, and ended up in prison for Donald Trump at the Capitol, and he doesn't even pardon anybody. It's like it's just like a photo op. It's the same way like Biden takes pictures with like workers, like, oh, like you think Biden really cares about workers? It's just like, here, hand things out and with the guy in the construction hat, so you look good for your campaign. That's what Trump's doing. And like the pizza, dude, give these guys some steaks and potatoes or something. It's so stupid. And it's like, it's hard to make fun of Biden. I mean, it's easy to make fun of Biden. It's one of the easiest things to do, but it's like hard as a movement to take ourselves seriously when we're like, Biden's old. Well, Trump's also really old. Biden eats ice cream. Trump hands out pizza, and literally like a bunch of grown men pissed their pants and acted like Trump saved the world or something. It's like everything Biden's economy sucks because he's a bad president, but it's also the money printing. I don't care who doesn't understand this. If Trump won and the House, the Senate, and all of Congress was Republican, inflation was still coming. There's no way they could have stopped this because they printed too much money over COVID. The whole thing was a scam. Okay. All the money printing they did. It was always going to come back to bite you in the ass. You can't do it. You just, it's not economically possible to print COVID checks and hand them out to the whole country and face no inflation. And that's what Thomas Massey says about foreign aid. It doesn't matter if you give money to Israel or Ukraine or Pakistan or whoever you're giving money to, you're printing money or taking money and giving it elsewhere. It's going to have some sort of economic impact. So it's like everything people complain about Biden, Trump also does. The things that Trump does better than Biden, if people wanted to run a serious campaign, he'll fix the border better, or at least change the policy. I don't know if he'll completely do it, but he should be the border guy. He did do a better job on foreign policy. That he didn't start the Ukraine war. That I believe is a good talking point. And then, the mandates, he would not federally mandate vaccines, although he was in on the scam also, and they would have mandated it locally and via corporations. So even if Trump got in, we were still going to get screwed. But Biden screwed us a little harder. Same with the border. It's like Trump deported less people than Obama. He really didn't do a good job, but compared to Biden, he looks like Superman because Biden is literally just letting our country get invaded. So if Trump's campaign was serious, it would be like border guy, foreign policy guy. I didn't mandate the vaccine. Not like the economy sucks. I screwed it up, but you're not smart enough to figure that out. I'm handing out pizza, even though that's a cheap food to give a first responder. And most men are not that pumped about pizza. They'd much rather have a steak or something. And then it's like, it's just like stupid. Someone said, oh, bro, you failed. Trump was in charge of CDC, the executive office. Just because you type in all caps doesn't mean you make sense. What are you talking about? Trump was in charge of the CDC executive office. What point are you trying to make? Like, are you trying to say he did a good job with the CDC? Like, is that the point you're making? Let me see. Someone said Trump mocks DeSantis for wearing lifts, but Trump himself wears lift. Trump's a joke. It's one of these things too, where it's like, imagine if I just started mocking people for having like long hair. It's like, oh, you have long hair like a girl, and it's like, anomaly, you have long hair too, and you're like, oh yeah, I gotta think of like a better diss. But it's like Trump's face is literally like orange, and I'm not like orange man bad. It's just like he's like a Hollywood liberal who like dyes his face and stuff and puts like weird makeup on. He's not in good shape. He's he like wears things like to like stand up straight. And in some of his speeches, I've seen the little things on his feet. It's like, he's not like he's kind of like metrosexual. Trump is a little metro in a way, but it's like, oh, he wears things in his boots. It's like, okay. But you put on like face dye, that's like, it's kind of like weirder in my opinion, but whatever. Someone said they could wear platform shoes if their policies are good, but since they aren't, we mock them. I don't know. Someone said Trump mandated the vaccines. He forced vaccinated the military and discharged those for who refused. Bro, you don't know. Maybe that happened. I don't know. I got to look more into it. If you were in the military and they were forced vaccinating you before Biden was there, you might be right. I don't know. I don't know if the vaccine was done by then, but I know one thing for sure. When the airplanes did the plane mandate, so when Trump was in office, I had flown on an airplane, right? They made you wear a mask on airplanes when Trump was in office. That I know that. I saw it. Even though Biden wasn't there to mandate it, the corporations did whatever they wanted, and Trump did nothing to stop them and didn't even try. In fact, he caved. I remember because he wore a mask when he went in, and I was like, all right, we're screwed now. If the president can't even stop wearing a mask, then we're not going to wear one, but whatever. And then when Biden got in, when you went to the airport, they blasted something on the loudspeaker and said, the President Biden has issued a federal mandate for masking on an airplane. So they did it when Trump was in office, but didn't say why they were doing it. And then when Biden was in office, they blamed his executive order. But then why did they do it when Trump was in office? Either he had the same order or he had no order and they just did it anyway and nobody stopped them. So it's like, dude, this country is just like a joke. They want you to like fight over each other and not figure that out. And I'm just trying to get to the bottom of the Scooby-Doo mystery. It's like, why were you forced masking me for a year or trying to when there was no executive order? But most people can't see what's going on through the lens of not doing it through Trump or Biden. It's like, well, Biden did this and Trump did this. And it's like, some things, yes, for sure will change. Like Trump will change the border policy. He absolutely will make it easier to deport people than Biden. But some things he really won't change, and he never changed. But, it's like, but when you say that, people get mad. They're like, how dare you look at what actually happened and not just say Biden or Trump? That's why sometimes in the comment section, if you say one thing and you're like, oh, you're a Biden guy, and it's like, no. Someone said anomalies misremembering. I'm not. I'm 100% sure that they force masked you on all airlines when Trump was in office. I'm sure of that. I know that for a fact. I'm not misremembering. I lived it. And then when Biden got in, they just said it was the mandate. They were going to, even if Trump got in, we'll see what he would have done with certain federal stuff, but they were going to mandate it. Like they have all this corporate power. They would have done lawsuits and the states would have done it and the local places would have done it and the corporations would have done it. And the thing is, Trump probably wouldn't have fought very hard. Just like, it would have been like, And I'm not saying it's his fault, but like so many people think if he was in, this wouldn't have happened. And it's like, it probably would have happened and he would have just been like, and that's not to blame him. It's just to say like, how do you stop something from happening if both presidents won't stop it? Then it has to be like the movement of MAGA and the movement of conservatism has to stand for something and hold the line. And not just like run circles around Trump and Biden. Like that is the problem. It's like if everyone said, like if Trump came out and said, listen, everyone, we're going to beat these mandates and we're going to do it peacefully, legally. We're not going to comply. We're not going to wear a mask. We're not going to fly. We're not going to go here. And you can go bankrupt and we don't care. And I'm not going to print money and hand it to you like Trump did. He's a communist. But anyway, it's like, and then it would have ended. But Trump doesn't use his movement to make people fix things. He uses his movement to be like, I'm arrested. Give me a $250 million. Like he's just like an aimless leader, an aimless, selfish leader. He could have easily said, don't do this. The schools, don't send your kid. If you love MAGA, don't treat your kids like this. We're all going to stop doing this today. And in a week, they're going to have to change it or they're going to lose a crap load of money and they're going to go out of business. But he doesn't do that. He says this and then he says this. He says, I won't wear a mask. He wears a mask. He doesn't fix it. He's like a giant Tasmanian devil, agent of chaos, but he's not messing up the plans of the deep state. He's messing up the plans of conservatives who can't think straight anymore. And that's what I was saying before January 6th. People hated me for saying this stuff. Thank God. I'm going to give my mom credit now. God bless my mom. Not that she cares about any of this stuff, but, she raised me right. She raised me not to be a follower. And she always used to tell me as a kid, if everybody jumps off a bridge, you don't jump off a bridge. You're not that stupid. Stop following these idiot kids. Do what you think is right. Do what I taught you. Thank God she ingrained that into me because everybody with January 6th, they wanted you to like just do whatever they said and support Trump and do this and that. And in my head, I was like, why aren't all these people why aren't they doing non-complying protesting? Like all these people, and you could find videos of me saying this like weeks before January 6th. I said, all these people are going to fly from all over the country for the father of the vaccine, Grandpa Moderna, Donald Trump, right? They're going to fly on a plane. And at that time, planes all had mask mandates. So they're all going to wear a mask on an airplane, get off the plane, take their mask off, march around. Some of them have MAGA face masks on or whatever. And then they're going to hop right back on a plane and wear a face mask and go home. The protest was not about anything important. It was about Trump. And the problems that we were facing were there even when Trump was in office. So whether it was him or Biden who took over, these problems were still existing. Biden was not the president in 2020. It was Trump. All of this stuff was happening under him. So I was like, why isn't the protest for everyone to peacefully non-comply? The bipartisan tyranny. Oh, shut up, Anomaly. That's why everybody gets Fed trapped, because they're following a Fed. Trump is the top Fed. He's the head of the federal government who mysteriously just hired 100% of people he claims to hate, ran around and did nothing. Like, it's, he just mysteriously went from a man before he got into office who boldly used to talk about vaccine injuries to a man who never talks about vaccine injuries because he's the father of probably the most corrupt vaccine in modern history. So he never talks about him. Oh, yeah, that's just a mistake that he made. No, he doesn't give a shit about you guys. So I'm not trying to be mean, but it's like, this is like common sense. It's like if everyone, and then you got people like Tim Pool just yelling Civil War all the time. It's like the Civil War is inside your beanie because you look like Diglett and you hate yourself and you surround yourself by people who are inferior to you. So they'll never realize that you're a piece of shit person. You don't surround yourself by people better and smarter than you because they'd never put up with your stupid ass. But anyway, it's like these people just try to freak you out all the time. It's like the real Civil War was you not saying generic shit for 2 years, waking up Americans. So they peacefully and legally just ended all this tyranny. You're not going to vote your way out of a pandemic that started under Trump. You're not going to vote your way out of a mask mandate that was on the airplanes as you're flying wearing a mask to go to January 6th. You have to organize your people to actually do something, not run around and get set up by the feds and jump in windows, like literally just say no, but they don't want you to say no. It's like this agent of chaos. Like you're always just pissed off and going to places and you don't know what you're doing. Like Trump could have ended all this stuff when he was in office. He could have just been like, everyone do this today. Here's what we're doing. Because I don't have, why don't you do it? I'm not Trump. I don't have the power to do this. I've made my case. I did the reporting I could, but it's like everybody, all of MAGA, do not allow your children to wear masks. Do not allow your children to, you don't have to inject them so they could play sports in college. You know how many conservatives probably did this against their will to their kids so they could go to school? You know why? Because they're losers. Because they're like, oh, Trump. They're, and that's why their kids are probably going to go off to school and become liberals because they don't respect their parents. Because why would they? And they think watching Sean Hannity is going to fix that. Not trying to be mean, but it's like if Trump came together and said, you know what? We're not force masking kids. We're not doing this. And as a movement, we're all going to just peacefully and legally non-comply. And that's the only way to end the mandates. And the mandates lasted for longer than a day or a week or a month. I believe they lasted for over a year because so many people played along. And they're like, I'm with you, Anomaly, but you got vaccinated. I know I did. Okay, are you going to go to the sports game? Yeah, I'm going to Lakers Stadium because I want to watch the Laker game. With what? My vaccine card. Then you're not with me. If everyone does what you do for long enough, I'm screwed. I'm a slave for the rest of my life because you're a freaking coward, so you're not with me. I'm sorry. It's like the only reason the mandate even failed is because the efficacy wasn't near what they said it was because they weren't accurate about that, allegedly, or whatever. And, they tried so hard to get people the first dose and the second dose that they just said whatever they wanted to say to make people get the first and the second dose. And pushing those doses that hard with the information they pushed, I think screwed them up long term. Like maybe if they told you if you get two, you're going to have to get one every year, half a year. Maybe they wouldn't, people wouldn't have wanted to get the first two doses. So it's like they blew their whole propaganda load on the first two doses. And then it's like, all right, well, now get it again and again and again. And the numbers kind of trailed off because they tried so hard to get people to get the first two. I don't know what their strategy was or what their plan, or if they just didn't know or whatever they claim, allegedly. It's like, but the numbers of compliance went down for the third, the fourth, and the fifth dose. If those numbers stayed at the 75 or 80% or whatever the hell they were at first, I would have been screwed forever. So if Trump really cared, he would have been like, here, hold the line here. You know what he did? He probably lied and didn't get it, but he said he got the first dose and the second dose. And then he went on Bill O'Reilly and said he got the booster and Bill O'Reilly got the booster. These people are professional con artists, controlled opposition, demons. And I don't care. When there's mandates facing America and you know that millions of your supporters and people are being persecuted, the only way to stop the mandates is getting enough people to peacefully and legally non-comply so the corporations and the businesses cannot do this and the government can't do it. You can't sit on Bill O'Reilly and tell a bunch of boomers that you got the booster and they should too. Fuck these people. You know what I'm saying? And these are the people you worship and you get mad at me. I don't give a shit. You know what I'm saying? I literally don't care anymore. I don't like what you said. Don't care. I don't agree with you. Don't care. I like Trump more than you. Don't care. I don't care. Just like I don't care when Bill O'Reilly and Trump tells me to get a booster shot. I don't give a fuck about these people. They don't deserve my respect. They didn't earn my respect. And I think of them both as cowards and complete demons. You know what I'm saying? They've taken a bunch of power and money and they're using it. And if you listen to Trump's body language when he talks about it, he used to talk about vaccine injuries. Maybe he really got the booster, but the chances are he's just lying to you. And what type of person would tell you to get something that they wouldn't even put in their own body and that their family's not even putting in? You get what I'm saying? These people fucking suck. And this is who people are obsessed with. It's like, what a fake, stupid movement. I don't care. I'm literally like, I'm more prepared to be broke and live in the woods than I am to fake it with a bunch of people like this. Like, I don't give a shit. And these grifters are figuring out how to make money. They just like, oh, I'm at Mar-a-Lago. Oh, DeSantis has boots. They're just sucking money out of you. They're like, who can like use MAGA and use conservatives in order to just make a shitload of money and tell them what they want to hear? It's like, I don't care. Someone said, I don't believe that he took it for 1 second. I don't either. I'm not like an expert at body language, but when he talks about the vaccine, it's like, did you take it? He doesn't say, yes, I took it. He says, yeah. Like, he's like, no, he didn't. But he's the father of the vaccine. He's the top scammer. He's the top demon. He's not a victim. He hired them, took money from them, filled up the swamp with them, cleared out liability for them, passed an executive order of what Bill Gates told him before the pandemic, rolled it out, bragged about it, and then lied about it. He's a demon. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to be a dick, and I'm not trying to offend people, but I consider MAGA at this point like a idol worshiping, controlled opposition, demonic cult. And it's like, I'm not saying everybody in it's bad or there's a lot of great people that mean well, and I know, hopefully they get closer to Jesus or whatever, but I'll focus on myself. But I don't look at it like, oh, this is this great movement of pay. It's an idol worshiping demonic cult. Like, it's like people that are running circles around a demon who scanned them and con them and sold them out to the swamp and lobbed them up to get spiked into the ground. And these people are still licking his boots. Someone said, I'm leaving. Bye-bye. Don't care. I'm leaving. So I'll listen to someone who lies to me. Go ahead. I don't care. Like I said, I'm willing to lose it all. I don't care how much money I lose, how much power, how much influence. I don't care. I can't fake it with these people. Someone said, how come I never get notified anymore when you go live? Well, I'll give you two answers. I mean, I could just be like everyone else and claim I'm always getting shadow banned when no one gives a shit. But the truth is, I personally, because I have been shadow banned and censored before, but I'm not going to like play like everybody in this movement, say they get shadow banned 2 times out of 10. They'll say they got shadow banned 10 times out of 10 just to like make a scene and get people to support them and like pay attention. Oh my gosh, I dropped the song and it got shadow. You didn't get shadow banned. Like Bryson Gray gets songs deleted. Tyson James gets songs deleted. You didn't get shadow banned. Nobody wanted to listen to your single. It's okay. I've dropped singles too that didn't get as many plays as I want. It's not always shadow banning. Sometimes it's just not popular. But in general, I've been banned and stuff. I've banned on TikTok, but I believe that Facebook is changing the algorithm and they don't want people to watch live streams because it's not as profitable for them. So if people watch Instagram reels and TikToks and, the reels, the Facebook reels, the amount of time you spend on Facebook is more because they're more addicting, they're shorter, and you just keep scrolling and it gets you caught in it. So I believe that they're just not showing people live streams because it's more profitable if you just look at my pictures. Like they'd rather me share a meme than a live stream. Not only does it mean less, but it's also like, it's just like better for Facebook's bottom dollar. So I don't believe that I'm being shadow banned on this topic. I just think that I could post a meme and get 1,000 shares, but if I post a live stream, they won't show people. But if I post like a random, Instagram reel about like, the Sphere in Las Vegas, it gets like 40,000 views now, but it's whatever. All right. I'll read one or two more and then I'm out. Someone said Bryson grifts off MAGA all the time. LOL. I mean, I'm biased because I like Bryson as a friend, but I don't think that that's true, because if Bryson really wanted to grift off of MAGA rap now, he could just keep making MAGA albums. I do believe that he kind of hitched his wagon to Trump's campaign and did really well with that. But I do think that the second that Bryson realized that Trump was full of shit, he started saying that he disagreed with Trump. So it's like, he definitely milked the Trump movement when he was into it. But as soon as it became clear that Trump wasn't who we thought he was, Bryson could have easily just grifted and made 20 more MAGA albums. But, he's been voicing his opposition to it and people hate him for it, just like they hate me for it. So it's like, he had a gig that he was going to perform where Trump was, and you had Trump supporters cancel his gig. Like, that's how fake and insane MAGA has become. Bryson literally has shown crazy amounts of love to Trump, more than most people ever will. And then he literally just said a few things against Trump, right? Bryson's just like, I don't agree with this, this, and this, and this, and this. And then Trump supporters came together to cancel Bryson's event. And they're against cancel culture, but if you talk against Trump, they'll cancel your event. So I don't think he's grifting off MAGA. I think he has made MAGA stuff, but he's not even doing it anymore because he doesn't even like Trump that much. Now there's new MAGA rappers. I mean, I'm not going to like throw shade or anything because I don't really care what people do, but there's like new rapping Trump rappers, it's like that are now just like popping up after like 8 years, and which I don't care, but it's just like, it's like late stage MAGA rap. Like the people who really started it are like leaving because they realized it's fake. And now like new people are hopping in to cash out on it. What do I think about Vivek against Trump's vaccine maker liability immunity? Well, here's the thing. Trump did not create that. He just hired a pharmaceutical lobbyist who declared an emergency, who launched it. But it was Reagan who passed the National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act, and it was George Bush who passed the PrEP Act. And Trump didn't start these things, but he used them and hired people who were happy to use them because he hired a bunch of shills and deep state swampers because Trump is controlled opposition. But anyway, Vivek is speaking against it like RFK is. It's good. It's good rhetoric. It's just like, we'll see if he really did it or not. The thing is, like, I want to believe Vivek. He says all the right things. He talks about, like you said, he's talking about it and he's totally right. It's just, I've seen him chameleon as 6 different people in 6 years. I've seen his old things. I see the way he talks. Like, he's great at saying what people want him to say. Like, he's a great orator. I just don't buy it. It's like would he do it? I hope so, but he's already, like, I don't know. I don't trust it, but I like the rhetoric. Someone said we're basically all effed. If your entire life and self-worth revolves in a pharmaceutical hedge fund guy saving you, then your life was never that much anyway. I'm not trying to be rude, but like, why would you need a pharmaceutical hedge fund manager to save the country? Like, if that's your idea of like, we're screwed unless a hedge fund pharmaceutical guy saves me, it's like, then you were always screwed. You were just lying to yourself about how to fix the problems in your life. Like, even if Biden wins for 20 more years, what are you going to curl up in a ball and just like roll over? Or are you going to be a man and be like, all right, where should I move to get my family safe? What state should I go to? Maybe I should move to here and get away from all the nonsense in the major cities, like many have done. Here's how to be self-sufficient, or whatever you think the solution is. Like, anyone who thinks the solution is following 2 pharmaceutical scammers, the father of the vaccine, and you know what I'm saying? Like, how is that a solution to you? And then this is the problem. These people put godlike faith into a politician and a hedge fund manager and a billionaire. They put godlike faith into another man that doesn't give a crap about them. And then they put their whole self-worth and live vicariously through these people. And they lie to themselves and tell themselves that that's a good idea. And then they become professional fans. And then as soon as it melts down or the narrative melts down, they absolutely spiral and they blame Anomaly or they blame Bryson Gray or they blame Joe Biden or they blame the left or they blame the rhinos. And it's like this constant spiral because these people lie to themselves. It's not like these people are not going to save you, you know, whether Biden wins or Trump wins, like your life is not going to change that drastically. Hopefully Trump could fix the border, but you know, he might not. I don't know. Like, hopefully he does. I would love to see like the middle of the country be like better, but you know, I don't want the country to bottom out, but it's like believing in a guy that doesn't care that much is not a solution. This is the point that I was trying to make earlier. Sorry, I'm getting exhausted, but this is the problem with MAGA in the conservative movement. You have people that are apathetic in their own life, so they think that being apathetic to politicians is a bad thing. There's people that don't want to like grab life by the horns in their own life, so they think a hedge fund manager turned pharmaceutical CEO turned guy who doesn't believe the book that he wrote 8 months ago is like the solution. And then when you tell them that that's not the solution, they spiral. And it's like, what now? I don't know. If every man in the Republican Party was like smarter and a little better, we'd have different options. We'd have better leaders, but you won't allow a good leader to come through because you're obsessed with Trump. You know, in every metric, I mean, the only metric that I really think that DeSantis is worse than Trump or the same is his foreign policy and the fact that he's way too obsessed with passing speech laws for Israel. I don't like that. Besides that, he does everything better than Trump. He hires better than Trump. He worked like everything about him is better than Trump except for those two things. And if those two things are important, then it makes sense to vote for Trump. But people aren't even mad at DeSantis over what he does wrong. People are mad at DeSantis over what he does right. And the things that he does wrong, Trump does the same shit. You're just hoping that Trump won't do it. But all the things I don't like about DeSantis, Trump also does. So it's not like that's a huge advantage. And it's like he tried to come through and do a few things. And here's how you know that Trump is a shittier governor than DeSantis and he's worse at politics. I did a poll one time and I said, who do you trust more, Trump or DeSantis? And people trusted Trump more. And I said, who do you think would be a better governor of Florida, Trump or DeSantis? And people voted for DeSantis. They're admitting that he would like if Trump was governor, would he be a better governor than DeSantis? And most people voted no, even people that like and trust Trump more than DeSantis and want to vote for him more. Why would you admit that he's a better governor? Because it's not rocket science. Put Trump as the governor of Florida. He's not going to govern as good. He's an idiot. He doesn't hire good. He doesn't do executive. Like, he doesn't know how to wield power, or he's just an idiot. I don't know, but it's like DeSantis, like, do it. Oh, Soros prosecutor fired, you know, hire Joseph Ladapo. He passes some sneaky stuff that I can't stand, but like in every metric besides two, DeSantis is like a 30 times competent leader as Trump, who never cries victim and just does things. Like, Trump doesn't do anything. So it's like, if DeSantis were better at that, why wouldn't he be better? He doesn't understand it. Guys, he was a lawyer. Trump doesn't understand politics. DeSantis probably would do a way better job, but he'd also probably sell out the First Amendment and possibly start a war for a foreign country and then call you an anti-Semite for talking about it, which is why I'm not voting for him, because it's like everything that pumps me up about DeSantis, he ruins it with the fact that he clearly, you know, is not trustworthy on the First Amendment, which is the most important topic. So, you know, it kind of kills my buzz. But like this idea that like Trump is so much better than him, in what metric? DeSantis is better in like every single way. And he's younger and he could win 2 terms and he doesn't cause all this chaos outside of like the policies. Like, he just kind of does it and says it and moves on. Trump, it's like a nonstop whirlwind of like, for what? What's he going to do? Like, is he even going to win? You know, is he going to beat Biden? Maybe not though. But we'll see. You know, someone said Bible says respect your father of the vax. That definitely does not say that. Respect the vaccine man, said the Lord. No, that's not what happened. But let me see who's winning this election. All right, I'm going to take off. I'm exhausted, but I promise I'll do some shorter streams and some better content. I have a lot of ideas, but I haven't been here for 5 days, so I had a lot I wanted to talk about. Someone said the Constitution, not one gives a crap about it. Thomas Massie cares, and he's endorsing DeSantis. I'm not saying it's going to sway my total opinion, but if there's one politician that I care about their endorsement, it would be Thomas Massie, because he actually is like an ethical person. So if he thinks DeSantis is going to be better than Trump, I trust it. But it, I don't care as much as he does. With that being said, I saw that Marco Rubio endorsed Trump, and someone was like, "This is so important." It's like, you're pumped about Marco Rubio. And the funniest thing about Rubio and Trump connection is when Rubio was running against Trump, you could find his old tweet. Trump said, Sheldon Adelson, who rest in peace, God bless, and I think now his wife is taking over their money, but he's got a fortune. Sheldon Adelson is the biggest GOP donor. It's just like he was donating like hundreds of millions of dollars to the GOP. Like he's like the mega donor of the right. And Trump used to tweet on the campaign trail. He was like, Marco Rubio is going to turn into Sheldon Adelson's perfect little puppet. Adelson's just giving him money to turn Rubio into a little puppet. Like Trump used to be like epic and say stuff like that. After Trump won, he took hundreds of millions of dollars from Sheldon Adelson and the GOP and all these corporations and stuff. And it's like he turned into the perfect little puppet. So it's like now Rubio's endorsing Trump because Trump turned into Rubio. It's like he did everything that he cried about with Rubio. It's like, you're going to take his money. You're going to do what he wants. You're a sellout. And it's like Trump does all those things, and then passes a speech bill to basically say that it's anti-Semitism to say that he did it. So it's like, it's not only bad that he sold out in the way that he claims that Rubio was going to be a puppet for, but then Trump with that passes a bill that basically calls it hate speech to suggest that he even did it in the first place. And if you even say what I just said, they're going to write articles about you in the press to say you're anti-Semitic. It's like they're passing bills to make free speech illegal and to make the truth hate speech. And Trump is in on it just because like the same way all the politicians are, they're all puppets. But it's like people can't face that. And that's my ultimate message. Besides, good luck if you're voting for one of these people. We don't, and I'm trying to not sound like a dick when I say it because it's not intentional. I'm tired of this fake right-wing idea that everyone deserves all this stuff. You deserve a closed border because you want it. You deserve a good president because you want it. You deserve a good country. You deserve better schools. You deserve this to end. You deserve the LGBT agenda to stop, propagandizing your kids. These things are earned, you don't deserve any of them. The Republican Party is gayer than Obama was when he got into office. It's like they're further left socially, and you get called a homophobe for pointing out that California in 2008 was further right-wing on gay marriage than the Republican Party is. It's like a brothel at this point, and they have a bunch of gay lobbyists also. I'm just saying. But in general, I'm not hating on people's private life. I'm just being honest. It's like, you deserve all these things, but you can't close the slippery slope in any facet of anything ever. And you just run circles around a guy that doesn't give a shit. Like you actually don't deserve a closed border. You actually don't deserve good schools. You actually don't deserve a good country. These things are earned. Can you like call a spade? Then you deserve it. Can you not? And you just run circles around Vivek and Trump and just DeSantis, then you actually don't deserve it. I know there's $1 billion industry now telling you that you're a victim and that you deserve it, but you're not though. You know what I'm saying? Like these things are happening for a reason. We don't have a real country. The mandate would have lasted a day if every Republican man was who they said they were, but they're not. So the left does it more, the right does it some, and they get 80% of what they want no matter who wins. That's the narrative. Can you stop it? It involves pointing this stuff out and standing up against it, not in a civil war like all the Fed trappers are trying to tell you to do. Just basic, like being like who men were 50 years ago, even 50%, and being like, no. That's what a real man does. It's like, hey, go jump off a bridge. No, that's all you have to do. Say no. Non-comply. Everybody complies and then wonders why it happens. And then there's a Dan Bongino to tell you that it's just the left when literally the right's working with the left, but they won't tell you. Someone said, go watch football. Oh, you called it rigor ball, like they're rigging it, but I will watch it anyway. But last thing I wanted to say too is I mentioned it earlier, but I kind of ran out. I know that one thing on the right and in the Republican Party, everybody talks about like the left is just giving out participation trophies. And it's like everybody can do everything and you get a pat on the back. I see that happening in the right a lot too. So I know one of my goals this year was to not argue with people on Twitter because it's a terrible idea. But I also want to like have a moment with people where they realize that this is not a participation trophy world. Like everybody on the right's like, oh, the left does that. The right does it also. It's like how many people they like don't even take care of themselves, but they want to just say snarky stuff on Twitter all the time. It's like you're playing participation trophy world where like you think you're so special and you're so wise and you talk down to everybody on a fake account. And I'm not saying you shouldn't have an account. I'm just saying like if you don't have your own face as a profile picture and you're talking shit to other people, you're a coward. Make an account, read, say some stuff, but like being like snarky and douchey when you're like gross, it's just like weird. It's like this one kid, he was like a Turning Point action guy, like some little dweeb that was like Turning Point. It's like, whatever, don't care. Never been mean to the kid in my life. Never thought about being mean. I'm a nice guy. He comes to my comment section, right? And this is like right-wing participation trophy. Everybody thinks their opinion matters. It's like, he's like, it's not wise to do what you're doing. And it's like, okay, do I go to other people's posts and talk this way? If I'm going to talk that way, I'm going to mean it. You know what I'm saying? Like if I'm saying they're not wise, I have to be wiser or else I'm just an idiot. And he's like, it's this like idiot weasel telling me that I'm not wise enough for him. And he's wrong about what he's talking about. So then I respond to him and I say, bro, not only are you not fit to tell me about wisdom, you're not even fit to clean my shoes. Like, I wouldn't even let you clean my shoes, let alone lecture me about wisdom. And they're like, oh, geez, why do you do that? Would you ever come up to me in real life as a kid who's probably inferior to me in every way, mentally, physically, in every single way? And just because he's inferior to me in every way, it doesn't mean I treat him terribly. I'd be nice and respectful because I treat everybody good. I judge people by like their soul, not like all their other characteristics. But in general, it's like this do-nothing weasel who's inferior to me in every way, is not wise, is stupid, works for a fake-ass organization, right? Never would talk to him that way. Never would go and tell him he's not wise or say something douchey and condescending. And he says it to me. This is right-wing participation trophy. Everybody thinks they could talk condescendingly like that to me and other people when they're idiots, because everyone allows them to do that and just like lets it happen and acts like it. So I'm like, next time I see you, you should be on your knees with a toothbrush, scrubbing my shoes, apologizing to me, and then I'll give you a half an hour lecture on wisdom because you're not a wise person. Like, you're not Tao Te Ching. You're not Eckhart Tolle. You know what I'm saying? You're not somebody superior to me where I'd be in a room and be like, tell me about wisdom. You know, Michael Jordan, tell me about wisdom. Like an elder, a grandpa, anybody, any grandpa. It's like, you know, tell me about wisdom. Tell me what you know. Not some 25-year-old little weasel who works for Turning Point telling me about wisdom. Dude, I could export 25% of my wisdom, stuff it in his little dweeby head, and he'd be smarter than he's ever been in his life. It's just like, this is participation trophy. And I know I shouldn't respond to people and stuff, but I'm trying to like teach this kid a lesson. It's like, bro, when I respond to people on Twitter, I'm responding with information. You know what I'm saying? Like, here's like, it's not like me condescendingly talking to them like they're so horrific or something. And if I do, I actually mean what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean it. I'm not just like saying it. All these people say all these things on Twitter and it's just like, oh, I didn't mean it that way. It's like, well, then what did you mean? Shut the fuck up. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't have to talk. Like, the people, and it's always the dumbest people. Smart people are learning. Smart people understand it. Like, the one of the best things I said, and I didn't plan this, I just thought of it when I was live. If a smart person and a dumb person talk for an hour, the smart person learns 6 things from the dumb person, even though they're stupider. The dumb person learns nothing, and that's why they're dumb. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I had an old lyric like 7 years ago in a cipher. I said, in a room full of wisdom, dumb man talk, smart man listen. If you're in a room with people that are better than you or smarter than you, you're listening, you're soaking up game. You know what I'm saying? You're retaining information. A dumb person, like, I've been in a room with 5 people and everybody's pretty smart. It's always the dumbest person that talks the longest and talks condescendingly to people and has to like one up everybody. It's not the smartest person. It's not the most accomplished person. It's always the dumbest person that's doing all these things to try to like convince themselves that they're on the same level. And it's like, everybody knows. It's like, stop doing that. So I'm just being real. It's like, I don't know. It's like someone's like, oh my gosh. And it's like, bro, you're not, just stop. You know, it's everybody. And I'm glad that like everyone has an outlet, because at the end of the day, it's like the cream will rise to the crop in some cases. I don't want like CNN to have all the power. So it's good that people can speak, but this is my personal rule on Twitter. And it's not because I don't want people to be anonymous. If you're anonymous, I believe in your right to be anonymous. I think that it's scary to live in this world, so it's good to be scared or whatever, and like post without your face, or, you know, it's whatever. Like, I understand your right to privacy, and I'm not Jordan Peterson. I'm not trying to like expose all the trolls. I'm fine with you being anonymous. But if you're anonymous, you shouldn't be talking shit to everybody all the time. Like, if you're an anonymous account with a cat profile picture and you're talking condescendingly to people, instant block. If you talk to me that way, I might respond, but it's like, if you're anonymous doing it, block. That's my new. It's like, you at least have to have a face on your profile picture to talk that crazily. Cause I don't, you know, I talk on my own live stream and stuff, but I don't like go in people's comment section and just like talk that much shit unless I really mean it and I really like thought out what I'm saying. Like, I'm not going to flock to somebody's comment section, be totally wrong, and then tell them how to like be wise, you know? And so now I'm like talking to people, and it's kind of mean, but it's kind of funny where they're like, it's like some guy that's like so mad because he's such a coward or something. And I'm like looking at his profile picture and I'm like, bro, you don't even take care of yourself. Like, you look like a disheveled mess who just scoops ice cream into their throat 5 times a day. Like, not only should you not be talking to me this way, because it's not like they ever say anything profound or interesting or like disagree with me respectfully, that intelligently, or disagree with me non-respectfully, but intelligently. It's like, it's always like the stupidest, dumbest point, and they're just spiraling because they're pathetic. It's like, I look at the picture. It's like, how, like, why would I listen to politics from you when you can't even stop? You can't even take care of yourself. Like, you look terrible, you know? And they're like, that's a mean thing to say, but at the same time, it's just like true. It's like, it's a valid point with Chris Christie. It's like, it's mean to make fun of him, but like, how is a guy going to run the country when he can't even stop eating? Like, I'm not trying to be a dick. I'm not trying to tell like a Chris Christie joke. Cause honestly, he said some things I agree with, some things I disagree with, but at the end of the day, like, without being too disrespectful, how can you manage the life of 350 million people in foreign policy when you can't even manage your own dinner plate? You can't even manage your own fitness routine. Like I'm not asking for perfection, but like, if you're that bad to yourself, how in the world are you going to dictate? Like, I don't see it. I think like, you know, taking care of yourself is a good first step. And you know, even with me in politics, people are like, when are you going to run? It's like, dude, I need to have a family first. I know like you might not think so, but like, if I can't even start a family and do that properly, why should, you know, like Lindsey Graham, he's like sticking his penis in bombs and stuff. No, I'm just kidding. That's a joke. Please don't sue me, Lindsey Graham. I know, you know, he's not making love to bombs. He's just trying to drop them on innocent children in foreign countries because he's 69 and, you know, totally not doing that or whatever. But it's like, you know, it's probably a smarter idea for me to get that in order before I like try to do politics and stuff. But it is what it is. All right. I hope that made sense. I don't think I explained the last part properly, but it was funny. It's just like, people will say stuff and then I'll respond and then they'll be like, well, why'd you respond? I'm like, well, you made it a point to go to my comment section and say that I'm not wise. And I'm looking at your Twitter account, and this is petty, I understand, but I'm looking at your Twitter account and it's like the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Like, it's not like I go to your Twitter account and you're like Lao Tzu, just like mind-blowingly like wise. You're retweeting like Cat Turd, who's literally like a cat turd who wears a cowboy hat and just like slops off Trump and says like the most low IQ, basic like magatard Trump talking points. And it's like, that you're going to tell me how to be wise? So instead of ignoring it, sometimes I shouldn't, but I respond just to like, you know, see how they react. You know, it's probably not the smartest idea, but it's like, why did you say that? Because you said it to me. You're like, why would you say that to me? I go, it's like, shut up, dude. You know, like and that's like, people joke with like Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg. A lot of people joke and say, this is what happens when you stop bullying nerds. You know, when you bully, it's the same thing with like law enforcement. You can't make theft legal or else everyone's going to start stealing. It's not good, but like, you know, you basically downplay certain theft and crime in major cities and it starts increasing. Why? Because you're not taking it seriously. People say that with like Zuckerberg, like, this is what happens when you don't bully the nerds. They take over the world. You know, to me, it's like participation trophy culture. Like, when everybody just allows everything and acts like it's cool, it's like, no, I'm going to tell this guy who's not smart at all and not wise and inferior to me in every single way, that's chirping at me, that would never say it to my face. I'm going to go to his comment section and tell him that he's not fit to clean my shoes. And he's like, why are you? I'm like, you know, if I ever see you in person, we're going to go to the store. You're going to buy me you're going to buy a toothbrush. You're going to clean my shoes with a toothbrush and you're going to apologize. And then I'm going to explain why I'm wiser than you. And then you're going to soak up some game. And it's like, is that harsh? It's like, but somebody needs to tell it to this kid because he's a snarky, douchey, turning point prick bag who's literally like not smart, not interesting, not funny, just working for a corny organization and talking shit to me when he's like one half is everything that I am. Like nothing he said made sense, you know? So it's like, I don't care that you don't make sense. I don't even know who you are. Why would you talk so condescendingly to me? And that's the thing with Tim Pool. It's not his opinions, but how he treats people in person. This is why I'm not even being like, I've already psychologically figured it out. He tries to surround himself with unimpressive people because he wants to be the coolest and smartest one. And he's not cool and he's not smart. So he has to like surround himself by weird people that are like, what? Like the Ian guy. The Ian guy is like simultaneously the dumbest and smartest person on Timcast. He's like my favorite person, even though he probably knows the least. And by knowing the least, he makes the most sense because he's just like not a complete prick. But it's like Tim surrounds himself by like extremely unimpressive people. And then when he gets somebody that's like somewhat impressive, like Luke, and actually says something, Tim gets mad at them. And he's like, shut up. Stop talking about Trump and the vaccine. Like he gets like triggered by like the truth. So he has to surround himself by people that don't have as much power. Even like Luke kind of needs Tim. Like, you know, Luke kind of fell off a little bit and Tim kind of helped him get back to prominence. I like Luke. I'm just saying, you know, so it's like he surrounds himself by people that kind of like need him, but he doesn't treat people well. Like a good boss treats people well. It's not always going to be perfect, but they actually like you. It's like, how many of these people that go on his show and stuff like him? And the dynamic is like, he talks so condescendingly to people, right? If you guys see when I have people on my show that are cool, like I'm a nice guy. I mean, with Vivek, it was unfortunate that I had such little time because if I would have had in 2 hours, I could have like let him talk in circles and just like been a little bit nicer. But because I had like 15 minutes to do like a 2-hour interview and like he talked in a circle for 10 minutes, I had to like be a little rude because it was like that or I wouldn't get it done. So like, I wish I had more time to talk to Vivek because I could have done it differently. But anyway, like when I watch how Tim Pool talks to people, he talks to people so condescendingly. Like he's just like starts screaming at them and looking at them like a deranged pigeon. He kind of gets that like you know, that Elizabeth Warren look in his eyes. Like, have you ever seen Elizabeth Warren? She looks like an angry pigeon. Like Tim Pool gets like that. Like the demon starts screeching out of him and he yells at people all the time and he talks over his guests and it's just a total shitbag. And like nobody that goes to a show likes him. They just want his internet clout. But in general, it's like when I was going on Tim's show, I was super excited, right? I was like, finally, because listen, I didn't hate him at the time or anything, but I was like, I see the way he talks to people and I'm not that kind of guy. He could disagree with me. He could, you know, things could get a little heated, but he's not going to talk to me like I'm a piece of shit. Like imagine if I was like a waiter or something. I was like, hey, can you please go get that cup of coffee for me? Or like, you know, I'm a very respectful person. My mom raised me right. Like I hold open doors. I say please and thank you. I'm very nice to everybody. Like if I don't have a reason to be mean to them, like I'm a very like I'll say like thank you so much, brother, appreciate you. Like Tim's the kind of guy that like you like he's like go fuck, you know, like he talks to everybody like a fucking shitbag. Like I fucking hate that. I hate people that are assholes. You know, I've always been this way. Even as a kid, I was nice to nerds. I was nice to everybody. But if you got bullied, I'd bully the bully. I've always been this way. I'd come to your defense and be like, you know what? I'm going to shit on this guy for you. And that's how I've always been. So when I see Tim like that, he's like the type to just be a fucking piece of shit to like a barista or something, you know, like he just seems like a dickhead to everybody he talks to. It's not what he says. It's how he says it all the time. He acts that way. So when I was going on a show, I was pumped. I was like, oh, I hope he doesn't talk to me that way. But if he does, I'm going to like, if you ever watched him talk to R.A. the Rugged Man, like he started screaming at R.A. the Rugged Man, who I disagree with on a lot of things. R.A. probably doesn't even like me anymore because he's like more liberal. But in general, you know, he was talking to R.A. like crazy, you know, and R.A.'s like, he's like a hood white guy. Like he's no joke. And it's not like you have to like you can't disagree with him, but like you can't just like act like you're trying to fight the dude. And that's how Tim does. He like screaming like shut the fuck up, like at someone's face, like as a man, dude, that's not a normal thing to do. Like no matter how much you disagree with him. And he's like doing that to RA, and RA got up and was like, yeah, I'm gonna beat the shit out of you. And Tim was like, I'm sorry. It's like, no, Tim is like the little Diglett beanie wearing Diglett weasel scumbag that no one ever tells no to. So it's like when I went on the show, I was like, man, I hope he doesn't talk to me that way. But if he does, it's going to be entertaining because I'm going to sun him the same way RA did and show him what a real man is. And like, of course, him and his team by a mistake sabotaged my flight and didn't mean to, and have never booked a flight that close. And it was a weird mistake and didn't invite me on the next 3 days. I think they purposely sabotaged it because I think Tim knew that I wasn't like a yes man or like a piece of shit or somebody he could walk all over. And I think he was afraid because he's inferior to me in every way. So he probably purposely sabotaged it and surrounds himself by like gremlins and people that like make him look like, you know, handsome and smart and stuff. Like you notice that? Like he's never going to have anybody impressive on his show. He needs to surround himself by people that make him look like really cool and really tall and really smart and stuff. And the only reason I'm saying all this stuff is because he's a piece of shit, you know? And it's like people like that, this is participation trope. Like nobody ever says this stuff, you know? And if people did say it more, then they'd stop doing it, you know? But because nobody says it, they just keep doing it. So that's my whole issue is like the way he talks to all his co-hosts, the way he talks to people on the show. Like someone will say something intelligent and he'll just scream over them like they're a fucking little piece of shit. And he's like, shut the fuck up, you know, like, and then they just sit there and like, dude, all his co-hosts look miserable. Like the one that's actually kind of cool. What's his name? Ian or whatever, you know, that's like, it seems like a nice guy. He posted some like suicidal thought 3 weeks ago and was like, yo, if I disappear, like the dude's got like suicidal thoughts and stuff. I'm not making a joke about this. It's a real deal. It's just like, why is he that way? Is it because Tim's a fucking piece of shit and it's like a horrific person? Maybe not. Maybe it's his own problems, but it's like he surrounds himself by people weaker than him that he knows he can just treat like shit. You know, it's like, it's gross. I can't stand it. So it's not him. It's the beanie maybe, but I saw the clip. I mean, I'll play it next time because I'm running out of time, but he literally like freaked out at Luke, who told the truth. Luke was like, yo, you know, he's like, I know DeSantis sucks or whatever, but like Trump did do this, this, and this. And Tim Pool has like a literal meltdown. He's just like, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up about the vaccine. Like, could you imagine working for someone that screamed at you like that? Dude, if Tim ever screamed at me like that, I'd be like, you look like Diglett. You wear a beanie all the time. You're not going to talk to me that way. You don't have to agree with me. You don't have to say I'm right. But you're not going to like stand 2 feet from me and scream into my face, shut the fuck up. You're not doing that. And that's why Tim surrounds himself by people like Luke that need him. Because any real man would never let a little Diglett beanie wearing scumbag talk to him like that. So it's like he's like surrounds himself by a bunch of people that are like, shut the fuck up. Yeah, I like Luke. I think he means well, but you know, we'll see how long he lasts. The way he screamed at him like that, it's like, bro, fuck you, Tim. Like, dude, he's such a scumbag. Like, Luke was right. Like, imagine being that mad over something wrong, but like Luke was literally right. Like, he was telling the truth. And Tim just got so triggered by the fact that Luke dared question, you know, the guy that Tim barely talks about. And it's such a dick move, but like, it's the same thing as like a mask mandate. When I would go to a restaurant and someone would be like, could you wear a mask for 5 seconds? Like, and I would be like, no. And I'd be with a group of conservative men, right? And they'd be like, oh, let's just do it. Let's just comply. Let's just sit down. And it's like, ew. Oh, you're just causing a scene. Like, these are the people that like Trump so much because they think that Trump's going to make them a real man or something. It's like, guys, I lived at the time in a conservative county. It's like if every conservative man told this business no, they'd either go bankrupt or have to switch the policy. And keep in mind, there were businesses wide open that no one was even messing with. And if it was like one business, 2 business, if everyone did it, they can't just fine everybody all the time. Like, we all have to come together and do it. But every like conservative man, that's what they do. They're like, let's just play along. That's why it's like, no, you know, tell Tim no, tell Trump no. You know, it's like that would go so far in this country. If like every man was just, someone said, I just looked up Diglett. Yeah. Google Diglett here. I'll look it up. Diglett is a mole Pokemon. Diglett Nas. I'm just going to read Bulbapedia, which is apparently Wikipedia for Pokemon. Let me see. Diglett is a tiny brown Pokemon that seems perpetually buried in the earth, leaving only its head visible. Its small stature makes it both the lightest and shortest ground type. It has beady black eyes and a large round pink nose. A Diglett in Pokemon Mystery Dungeon mentions that it has feet, though their size and appearance are unknown. It spends much of its time underground and has very thin skin. If Diglett is exposed to sunlight, its blood will heat up and cause it to grow weak. Does that not sound like Tim Pool? It's literally like Tim Pool's Wikipedia. It's like Tim Pool is Diglett with a beanie. Let's keep reading because this is hilarious. Diglett lives in tunnels and caves under the earth where it feeds on tree roots and vegetables. It is known to live in burrows behind onyx. It sometimes lives in burrows near forests and has even been shown to live inside trees. Digletts dig regularly through the earth at a shallow depth, leaving perfectly tilled soil in its wake. Some farmers welcome Diglett because it tills their fields and its droppings enrich their soil, but others consider it a pest for eating their vegetables. I mean, very accurate, you know? The similarities are shocking. You just got to throw a beanie on that Diglett and make it a little angrier. You know, I think Tim was supposed to be a Diglett. And the problem is when he got so much money, he became a Doug Trio and he just became a tyrant. You know, he needs to go back to Diglett form. Really, the reason I'm saying this now is because, dude, if I play that clip of you of him screaming at Luke, dude, it's insane. He's literally like, Luke's like, you know, Trump did this and pushed the vaccines and, you know, he did do this. And Tim's like, I fucking had it. I freaking had it. Oh my gosh, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. Like, I'm not even, like, he literally did that. Like, he literally, like, melted down and told Luke to shut the fuck up because Luke told the truth about Trump and the vaccines. Like, he's like, I'm tired of arrogant. I'm tired of, and you're like, bro, this guy is such a demon. Like, his demons inside are like, it's like AOC when she talks and her beady eyes like poke around and stuff. It's like she has demons inside of her, just like Rick, you know what I'm saying? Or like Elizabeth Warren when she's like, God! And she like pecks you. You're like, dude, take my healthcare, whatever, lady. You know, like it's like a demonic breakdown. I'll play it on tomorrow's show, so that's reason to stick around. It's insane, dude. I can't play it because my whole thing will freeze because I'm not on good technology right now, folks. I'm gonna buy a new iMac eventually. It's not like terrible, but it's aging. I think it's from 2017, so I'll buy. Should I be a grifter and raise extra money for it, or should I just use the money you guys already gave me or that I get from like Patreon and stuff? Maybe I'll do like a GoFundMe. I'll be like, here's my GoFundMe for a new iMac. I need to raise $200,000, and then in parentheses under it, it's gonna be like, well, technically, I could use this money for whatever I want. No, I could afford it. I'm just kidding, but you know, I do appreciate people on Patreon. Times are rough, dude. When you lick Trump's boots, it's a lot more profitable. But I never did that. I always was trying to be accurate and stuff. But you know, now that like, you know, I'm pissing off like half of the country, it's not a vibe. It's definitely like harder. It's harder out here for a white boy talking against Trump. No, I don't know. Just messing around. My iMac needs a beanie. It definitely does. I need a really big one though, you know? Someone said, think I might be a grifter soon. Loomer makes over 100K in donations, you said. I like Laura as a person, you know. We disagree thoroughly, I think, on most politics, but we've always gotten along. So it's like I don't agree with everything she's saying. I'm sure she hates everything I'm saying because she loves Trump, but she's always been cool to me, so I'm not really trying to like, you know, pick a fight with her. But we go back when nobody was doing politics, like 2016 Politicon and stuff, but I'm not, come on guys, get your mind out of the gutter. Stop that. Someone said the only guy who didn't sign an NDA from Tim was Adam. I like Adam. Adam's always been cool with me. He's a fun guy to talk to. Someone said Anomaly sounds like an animal. See, I don't even take that as a diss. Like if you called people an animal, they'll be like, oh, that's so rude. But like, I'm an athlete. So if you call me an animal, like I'm an animal on the backboards, you know what I'm saying? I'm an animal with the rebounds. I'm an animal with the content. I take that as a compliment. I see myself as like, I don't know. You can call me any animal. Just don't call me a Diglett because then it's hate speech and I'm going to have to tell the ADL on you. Diglett beanie, make them. Then I'll get sued by Pokemon. I got to go. Good luck. God bless everybody. Sorry to Dallas Cowboys fans. Another disappointing year. I'm probably going to watch a little football, be an American, eat food, you know, like a good patriot would, and watch these let me just look real quick. Did the votes start coming in? Let's see if my prediction's right. I put no stake in my predictions. I don't. Oh, look. Yeah, Donald. Look, it's almost exactly what I said so far. There's only 0.1% of the votes in. Trump has 76% of the votes. Ron DeSantis has 12% of the votes. Nikki Haley has 5% of the votes. Vivek has under 5%. Exactly what I said. I said Trump by a landslide, DeSantis in second, Nikki Haley in third, Vivek in fourth. Let's see if it pans out. There's still a lot of votes, but Trump's not going to lose to DeSantis. Like, I'm sorry to the DeSantis people. They're like, yo, he's going to win. In many ways, I do wish DeSantis would beat Trump. Trump annoys the shit out of me. It's just not going to happen, and I'm not going to pretend like it's going to happen. Trump is going to, like, mop the floor, and then he's probably going to, like, lose and play victim and set his supporters up again or something and sell more vaccines. I don't know what's going to happen, but hopefully he could build the wall. Build the wall, Donald Trump. Please do not build it out of vaccines. Build a wall and, stop the flood. All right. Good luck, guys. I'll be back soon. Hey, what's going on, my friends? Just a few ways to stay in touch and support if you'd like to. The first way is dreamrare.com. We have blue beanies, black beanies, pink hats, other colored hats, freedom versus tyranny shirts, stay blessed long sleeve, God is great long sleeve, and lots of more cool items coming soon. Dreamrare.com. Check out the shop to support. Everything's made in the United States. Handpicked by me. Patreon.com/raretalk for $5 a month. You can help support me, support the show. If you haven't noticed, unlike other channels, I don't work with very many sponsors. Sometimes none at all. And part of the way I'm able to do that is with the dreamrare.com shop. And patreon.com/raretalk. So thank you guys for keeping this show free, unimpeded, uninterrupted. I'm forever grateful. My free email list is stayintouchwithme.com. So check the links below in the description or just type in on any browser, stayintouchwithme.com, all one word. You'll find my email list, put it in there, and it's the least annoying email list you'll ever